still in the evening. And Northern Ireland, although extensive cloud cover, warm enough where we've got some thinning of the cloud in places. Plenty of clear spells then across England and Wales at least overnight, and we keep largely dry weather up and down the country, but always the exception, northern Scotland. It continues to be showery here with a keen breeze, and some showers just trickling into eastern parts of England at times. Clearer skies towards the south and southwest, and a warm night, but not particularly uncomfortable. We're looking at the mid-teens, and in some spots down into the single figures where we've got some shelter from the cloud and the breeze. We start Wednesday then with a lot of fine and dry weather, a bit more cloud, especially through parts of central UK, coming down that east coast and continuing to see those light showers for northern Scotland. Best of the sunshine once again, Wales and the southwest, where temperatures reaching 26 or 27 Celsius, cooler near some exposed coasts.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're celebrating a golden summer with your chance to win a real gold bar. That's right, a fine gold bullion bar worth over £5,000 could be yours. We're also going to make sure your finances are fabulous with £60,000 in tax-free cash. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Join me, Nana Akua, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Harwood. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.
And we're not afraid to use our free speech so that you can use yours.
It's not controversial in the slightest to anyone who hasn't lost their mind.
Free Speech Nation, Sunday nights at 7 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 12 o'clock on Tuesday, the 21st of July. My name's Tom Harwood, live from Downing Street as Cabinet Ministers start to arrive.
Yes, and here in the studio, I am Emily Carver.
But I can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living.
Yes, Andy Burnham says he'll remove VAT on your energy bills, but that plan has already descended into farce as the sacked Starmerite Darren Jones claims the policy is unfunded.
It's the honour of my life to have been asked by the Prime Minister to be the Foreign Secretary of our country.
Well, it may be the honour of his life, but the White House is reportedly deeply concerned about Andy Burnham's decision to appoint Ed Miliband as his Foreign Secretary. Any UK politician who gave Trump the time of day should be ashamed. Yes, those are the words of our new Prime Minister just in 2021. Just hours after entering number 10, though, Andy Burnham invites the US President to Manchester for the G20 summit. Net zero fanatic Miata Fahnbulleh takes the job of Energy Secretary. Will she follow Red Ed's lead and reject North Sea oil and gas?
Would be very disappointed to see someone like Wes Streeting coming in who knows pretty much the square root of nothing about defence and would have to start from square one, and that will just take time, energy from people to brief him before he's in a position to start making decisions.
Yes, that was the former Army Chief Lord Dannett's scathing verdict on Wes Streeting as Defence Secretary on LBC. That was just 2 days ago. We'll dig into that. Now it's confirmed he's got the job. Is Streeting ready for the office, or are we heading for a defence disaster? He's already got his hands full, hasn't he, as the Ministry of Defence confirms a Russian warship has been carrying out live-fire drills off the UK coast. It was buried by the Burnham News yesterday, but the Ministry of Justice is taking legal action to block publication of foreign nationals' crime rates in England and Wales. With David Lammy out, will a new Justice Secretary bring more transparency?
Now, I will soon go through that door behind me and issue my first instruction to end rough sleeping in our country.
As he delivers his first instruction as Prime Minister, Mr Burnham should reflect on his efforts closer to home. He failed spectacularly to keep a promise to get homeless people off the streets of Greater Manchester. I'll share the figures with you. And tributes are from around the world pour in for King Kev, Kevin Keegan, the former England player and manager who has sadly died, aged 75. Well, yes, Tom, it's a big day for Andy Burnham. What exactly is going to be going on behind that black door behind you?
Well, Emily, you join us here at a busy moment in Downing Street. The first cabinet meeting of Andy Burnham's new government is meeting Miata Fahnbulleh, the new Energy Secretary, is just walking into Downing Street behind us now. We've already seen Lucy Powell, the new Education Secretary, go in, and Matthew Pennycock, who is a Treasury Minister as well. They've all gone in. We're starting to get the keenest beams in Andy Burnham's new cabinet, walking into that famous black door behind us. And then it is the first cabinet meeting where Andy Burnham no doubt will be trying to set out what his government is for. Ultimately, we will get a readout of this meeting, but the question is, will this cabinet feel like a much more campaigning cabinet, given the announcements that we've already had? Emily, I don't know about you, but I feel like we're already in a bit of a campaign. It feels very different from the last sort of government. It feels, perhaps, like we're in the midst of some sort of electoral fight.
Ooh, very interesting indeed. Well, Tom, we'll be back with you in just one moment. Keep your eyes on that big black door behind you. Do get in touch throughout the show, gbnews.com/your say. It does feel as though the Starmerites, the Starmer allies, the Starmer loyalists, some of the ones who were sacked are ready to put the boot in, that's for sure, to Andy Burnham, the new Prime Minister. gbnews.com/your say. Do get in touch, but let's get the headlines with Tatiana.
Emily, thank you and good afternoon. The top stories. Prime Minister Andy Burnham has announced a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from electricity bills from the 1st of October. The rate of VAT applied to household electricity will be cut from 5% to 0%. Mr Burnham has vowed to provide breathing space for households struggling with the cost of living. In his first speech to the nation in Downing Street yesterday, he said he wanted to bring forward the biggest challenges in the last 40 years to British politics. Former Defence Secretary John Healey was selected as Chancellor in a shock move praised by military chiefs that could signal a boost to defence spending. Elsewhere, Angela Rayner returns to number 10 as the Housing Secretary. Shabana Mahmood retains her position as the Home Secretary, and Wes Streeting takes on the role of Defence Secretary. President Trump said the UK's new Prime Minister has got a big job ahead of him, but he'll be able to do it. Reform Party Chairman Lee Anderson spoke to GB News.
It's the same old people. All it's done, it's a shuffle. Just shuffled the same old faces around. Some of those faces have been around that place for donkey's years, and that's all it is. It's the same people. It's a bit like having a failing football team, guys, and all you do is just swap the positions of the players. So I don't really recognise any new places in the odd one, to be honest. But like I said to you yesterday, the problem that Andy Burnham's got is he may set off with good intentions, but he's got the same 400 backbench MPs behind him. And if they don't want him to do something, he won't be allowed to do it.
And the cause of Anne Widdecombe's death is yet to be established. The opening of an inquest into her death has today heard. The 78-year-old former MP and MEP was found dead at her home in Devon on the 9th of July with visible injuries, Exeter Coroner's Court has heard. Joshua Carey, who's 28 from Rotherham in South Yorkshire, has arrived at Westminster Magistrates Court where he's due to appear charged with her murder this afternoon. The investigation, which remains ongoing, has been led by Counter-Terrorism Policing South East, supported by Devon and Cornwall Police. Those are the latest headlines. More from me in half an hour.
Tune into GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Well, good afternoon, Britain. It is 7 minutes past 12 and there's a lot of action on Downing Street again. Yesterday, Andy Burnham finally decided his cabinet. It went on until about 11 o'clock at night. I wonder what on earth was going on inside that building. Perhaps a lot of people in there refused certain jobs and he had to rejig things. Perhaps that doesn't bode well for his decisiveness going forward. But Tom Harwood is there on Downing Street today because it is the first new cabinet meeting for Andy Burnham. But there's already a little bit of drama behind the scenes and in the public realm too. Tom Harwood, do tell us, what can we expect this afternoon?
Yes, indeed. Certainly drama here, Emily, because we're having the first cabinet meeting of Andy Burnham. That starts in around 20 minutes' time. He'll be having all of those new cabinet appointments, some of them entirely new to the cabinet, a lot of them, frankly, raised from the political dead, resurrected those ministers who were sacked unceremoniously after scandal or disagreement with the previous Prime Minister. Astonishing just how many have returned to cabinet. We're getting another arrival behind us now. We've already seen Wes Streeting, Chris Bryant, Lucy Powell, Angela Rayner, some big names walking in to that door in the last few moments. We're going to probably get some more in the next few minutes. As I said a little bit earlier, it's the keenest beans who are arriving very early indeed to try and perhaps schmooze their way into the heart of government. But these appointments seem to be fairly factional. I've got Christopher Hope with me here on the street because, Christopher, as we see some more of these cars arrive, a lot of people were surprised just how brutal the night of the long eyelashes was.
Yes. I think it was our friends at GBNews.
Yes.
That's right. Well, we think 10 members of Keir Starmer government went yesterday. That's Angela Eagle arriving there. Of course, the new Environment Secretary. Brutal, almost a lot of bloodletting, maybe too much. Look at the reaction today of Darren Jones, the PM's first secretary. Looking there, Jonathan Reynolds arriving there, and others too. Now, Jonathan Reynolds didn't come on GBNews today. We're trying to find out why and ask other cabinet members why not. But yes, no question. Concern here about the scale of bloodletting. The way Darren Jones responded to that by saying this cut to VAT or fuel bills isn't actually funded through dealing with the ID card scheme because that wasn't funded anyway. So those are questions that will be raised around the cabinet table now and also in the lobby briefing afterwards.
Yeah, Chris, it does seem to me that actually when it comes to this current government, there hasn't been a big focus on the money. Speaking of the money, John Healey, the Chancellor there. John Healey, are you going to find the money?
Where's the money coming from?
Too many black holes! Well, the new Chancellor there walking into number 10 Downing Street, but ultimately he's got a lot of money to find. There's a $5 billion acknowledged black hole in the defence investment package, but when John Healey resigned, he wanted not 15 billion extra spent, but 18 billion extra spent. So is that actually an 8 billion black hole there in defence, if you go by John Healey's original ask. And then, of course, Chris, as you say, this money that was technically going to be found for digital ID, but hadn't been found yet. I mean, it's not money that had already been raised. There are some really big problems here for this new government, some really significant issues, because they're announcing things, but they haven't yet raised the money to pay for them.
That's right, and these problems would, of course, I think, be covered off or dealt with, certainly in the House of Commons, Tom. Parliament isn't sitting in the House of Commons, at least, for another 41 days till the 2nd of September. The House of Lords is sitting. Tories there are trying to develop some form of mechanism to force Andy Burnham's representative in the House of Lords to ask them questions on behalf of his government tomorrow, Wednesday, in the House of Lords. We'll see how that plays out. Just watching Bridget Phillipson. Were you demoted, Bridget Phillipson? Are you happy, Bridget Phillipson? That's Bridget Phillipson, of course. She was made the Women's and Equalities Secretary, losing that education brief to Lucy Powell.
And of course she had come under heavy criticism from Kemi Badenoch and the Conservatives, described as a class warrior, described as many different words that she kicked up a stink about in the House of Commons. It does seem that she has been demoted, though. I mean, traditionally, Women and Equalities would be a brief alongside a larger cabinet role, and yet this is given, she's been given a position sort of attending cabinet, not full cabinet minister status.
It's definitely demotion, and she's looking quite sort of a wintry smile, I would say, on a summer's day as she walked in. Thumbs up there from Lucy Powell as she arrived, of course. You look at the key players around Andy Burnham. You've got these 3 jobs for Louise Haigh, haven't you? She's the first Secretary of State. That makes them the most ranking person in the cabinet who isn't the Prime Minister. You've also got her as
effectively the Deputy Prime Minister.
Well, that's what I'm getting to, because she's also the Cabinet Office Minister and also Chancellor of the Duchy of Lancaster. Now, the Deputy Leader of the party is Lucy Powell. Lucy Powell has been a spokesman for the whole campaign in the past few days, for Andy Burnham's campaign in recent days. What does she think? She did a thumbs up and she was happy with that role. We'll wait and see.
I think that's Alan Williams. Alan Campbell, is it? Alan Campbell,
who's the leader of the House of Commons.
Yes, and he was for a long time the chief whip of the Labour Party.
Can I give you a fact, Tom?
Oh yeah,
Alan Campbell. He's been on the Labour front bench since 2006.
Wow. That is a veteran. I mean, that's almost as I mean, to be consistently true, that's remarkable. But I suppose
20 years.
It is interesting, though. Quite a lot of people who were perhaps allies of Gordon Brown. I mean, we're talking about John Healey, who was, of course, the Treasury Minister under Gordon Brown. Andy Burnham, who was promoted in the Cabinet by Gordon Brown. I mean, to some extent, while Keir Starmer promoted a lot of people who were close to Tony Blair, perhaps Andy Burnham is promoting a lot of people who were around the government of Gordon Brown.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, yes, you're right. You're right that we did see John Healey for 5 years of the 10-year Blair government, 2002-2007, in the Treasury. Yeah, I never saw him as a Brownite or a Blairite covering that period. He's kind of a neutral figure. He was number 2 or 3 in the Treasury, did his work. I think everyone had forgotten that history of him being in the Treasury, and I think that's maybe what counted against Shabana Mahmood when she was going to be moved from the Home Office. But we'll see how that plays out. Already, though, farcical scenes, I think, with this new government on day 2. They can't. The big announcement they pledged on the doorstep of Downing Street yesterday isn't funded. The idea of funding money from the ID card scheme, that wasn't funded. Darren Jones has made clear. Lots of questions around the cabinet table and then the lobby briefing later.
And frankly, would Darren Jones have made that tweet? I mean, it is an excoriating tweet this morning that was so critical of Andy Burnham in about the most critical way that a former cabinet minister could be. A real pointing out that there is no money here. Do you think he would have made that criticism if it hadn't been an absolute bloodbath of allies of Keir Starmer yesterday? If it wasn't, for want of a better term, an all-out factional war within the Labour Party between those who supported Keir Starmer and those who wanted him gone?
Well, that's right. What's happened here is he has created enemies, I think, on the back benches with this reshuffle by Andy Burnham. I think it didn't go as planned. We do know Rachel Reeves.
Emma Reynolds who's arriving there.
It is indeed in the red suit. Yeah, you got Emma Reynolds here. Coming forward. I think she's the number 2 in the Treasury, isn't she? Financial Secretary or Chief Secretary of the Treasury, I think. Remember?
Right. I think probably Financial Secretary.
Yes.
If indeed.
Yes. Let's ask
Matthew
a question.
Pennycook. Yeah, let's.
Emma Reynolds, how will you pay for these energy bills? Why not recall Parliament? Emma Reynolds in a glamorously bright red and white trouser
And I
suit
suppose
there.
the question is this a glamorously red government? Spending more money, not announced where the money's coming from.
Yeah.
It's been pretty happy to announce some big policy changes, and yet we aren't getting that same sense of sort of fiscal credibility. That is going to be an issue there.
Hamish Falconer arriving now. Hamish Falconer.
They are coming in thick
and here comes
fast.
Shabana Mahmood, who should have been Chancellor. Would you have been a better Chancellor, Shabana Mahmood? Do you wish you were Chancellor, Shabana Mahmood? Now, Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, arriving, Tom. Now, she, of course, has said it in an interview or a tweet today. She's happy where she was.
Yeah.
We were told that we all thought she'd even been made the Chancellor.
I was speaking to some people around here last night, the watering holes of Westminster, once the sort of excitement sort of simmered down. Their suspicion was that this Chancellor idea was sort of put out there in the media to see how Shabana herself would respond to it. And I heard that she wanted guarantees on her immigration and asylum reforms, guarantees that could not be given, that they would remain in the exact same way as she proposed them were she to leave the Home Office, that she seemed to really want to continue to push forward her big reforms on indefinite leave to remain that could save the taxpayer a huge amount of money, but that there is significant pressure from the Labour backbenchers to water down.
Yeah, to her credit, she's unwilling to leave that post and not trust it to somebody else. Ed Miliband was moved into the Foreign Office. That is a promotion being made, the Foreign Secretary. He wanted the job behind it through number 11 doors. He wanted to be the Chancellor of the Exchequer. That hasn't been given to him. Instead, he, as a rival, he's been put on a plane flying around the world. It's what you do with your rivals in politics,
Yes.
Tom. You make them be out the country for long periods.
It's what Theresa May did with Boris Johnson. Get him out of the country. But we've got another car sweeping in here. It does. The cabinets are very big these days. It seems that cabinets grow and grow and grow. And Andy Burnham has appointed people to sit at the cabinet table who aren't full-ranking members of the cabinet, like Bridget Phillipson, for instance. It does seem that this is an institution that is growing and growing and growing in terms of those number of people who are sitting around the table.
Because it's all about preferment, Tom, isn't it? They have actually increased the number of paid ministers you can have. That was waved through by Kemi Badenoch last year by a few, because government's got bigger. Arguably, some would say it should be smaller, but in fact it is getting bigger, and that's why there could be an extender required. That looks at Ellie Reeves. Now, she's the Attorney General. Of course, Ellie Reeves, is the Chagos deal dead? Ellie Reeves is the Attorney General, of course, replacing Lord Hermer in that role. Is the Chagos deal dead? It's a question many are asking already. But yes, the Cabinet is getting bigger. It's all about preferment, patronage. So, you know, you are a fully fledged Cabinet Minister, but equally, it may be the case that actually you can sit in the back. You're in the Cabinet. It allows people to feel having their tummy tickled, Tom.
And increasingly, there are Cabinet subcommittees of 4 or 5 Cabinet Ministers that make the core decisions. We saw that during COVID, the sort of COVID-O committee and all the rest of it.
I just wonder if that's what we may hear that from Andy Burnham. All of the pillars and the various committees that were established under Keir Starmer, they've all gone, I suppose.
Oh, of his 5 missions,
the missions,
and 6 pillars.
Well,
and,
yes.
Oh no, not 6 pillars. That's something to do with religion. But,
but even I lost track by the end. It's my job to know what's going on with those. But they never made any news from me. They never cut through for me.
Do you think that this is a year zero moment for this government? They're sort of trying to pretend the last 2 years didn't happen. I was thinking this morning, reading about this big announcement from the Prime Minister on electricity bills. It's almost a direct mirror image of the first announcement from Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer. Before a budget, the first thing that the government did in 2024 in the minds of the people was take away money for winter fuel. Now, the first thing that this government is doing is taking money off people's bills. It's a precise mirror image of that, and perhaps a bit better politics from people that might understand the country a bit better?
Yes, better politics, Tom, but equally, is it affordable? I mean, the point about the first announcement by the last government was they were saying it's a black hole, here's how we're dealing with it, and it's massively unpopular. Instead, this isn't funded. Now, there's money down the back of the sofa, we call it, the rainy day fund. It's called a contingency. Is that 9 billion or 19 billion? I forget from the last budget. Anyway,
it was definitely bigger than the previous budget.
Yes, I think it's 19 billion, maybe. So they can afford to pay for these ID cards from that, only 850 million.
But that's supposed to be for natural disasters, for wars, for things that the government can't... Energy shocks. But the thing is, the government is now announcing a policy that it can choose rather than something it can't. Yvette Cooper.
Here's Yvette Cooper. Is the health service safe in your hands, Yvette Cooper? There's Yvette Cooper, of course.
Wearing NHS blue.
NHS blue, well spotted. Former Foreign Secretary, now the Health Secretary, and in charge of this huge effort by this government to tackle social care once and for all. You said before, is the start of a government, Tom. It is, but the government's 2.5 years long. They're in a rush. Part of the problem now is they can't really announce big things in Parliament. Pat McFadden, will you cut benefits? That's Pat McFadden staying in the Benefits Department, and many will hope he can cut the benefits bill. It's getting unaffordable.
Because there was that famous leaked text message from Pat McFadden to Peter Mandelson, where he said that every time he sees a Labour MP, they are only asking, who can we tax to give more money to benefits claimants? That is something that he seemed frustrated by behind the scenes. It's become a political attack for those on the right to lobby against this government. But, I mean, can he actually reduce that bill, given the resistance that there is amongst the backbenches of the Labour Party?
Just hearing what Andy Burnham said yesterday on the step of Downing Street, he said he wants to build more council homes because that will help bring down the benefits bill. I think he meant by that fewer money paid to private renters from the housing benefit bill, I think. That's where he was saying. I've always thought that leak, that inadvertent leak from the Mandelson papers actually helped Pat McFadden.
Helped Pat McFadden, but didn't help the government.
Yes, correct. I think it made him look like he's going to be tough on benefits, appeal to the right, do the hard yards against the right. I think that worked, and that's why I think I often find in politics, leaks can have the opposite effect intended. It can actually cement someone's reputation.
That's a very interesting point, because it does seem that he is one of the sort of few appointments who might be more on the centre of the Labour Party.
On your point on the start, yes, this is the start of a new government. 2.5 years long, this government. That is the toll they've got. All they've got, because it won't go the full 3 years. It can't anyway, because the election must be before July 2029. And I'm looking at it going, he's now wasting 40 days. He can't do anything in the House of Commons. There can't be any kind of budget. There's nothing to scrutinise. No spending plans. There can't be budget until the autumn.
Look, we've got Ed Miliband coming up through our camera. I wonder if we can swing round our camera here and just have a look at the new Foreign Secretary. Are you delighted with your great Office of State, Ed Miliband?
Ed Miliband, you're on GB News. Is the Chagos Island safe? Do you like Donald Trump? Do you regret your Donald Trump remarks, Ed Miliband?
Are you going to sell off the Chagos Islands?
Will you apologise to Donald Trump?
Oh, well, there we have it. Ed Miliband, the new Foreign Secretary. Clearly, he is someone who has done well out of this reshuffle, but he didn't get an economic brief.
No, and he wanted that. He wanted to be in the Chancellor Exchequer's job in the building behind us, 11 Downing Street. He looked quite happy and jolly. The question marks he's got to ask, and we haven't really gone through all this on a job by job basis. He was very, very critical of Donald Trump, and he's meant to manage that relationship. And it was really outsourced to David Lammy under Keir Starmer, wasn't it? Because he connected to J.D. Vance, the number 2 to Donald Trump in the White House.
But of course, Ed Miliband has been so close to Andy Burnham over the course of the last 6 months or so. He's been one of the people agitating to push Keir Starmer out of Downing Street. He was advising informally Andy Burnham over the course of the last many months. He was up there in Makerfield all the time. He needed to be rewarded. And frankly, was this the best choice that Andy Burnham could have made? It's something that won't upset the markets, because he's not going to be touching anything financial. And equally, whilst it is a great Office of State and has the grandeur of history, it's not the same role that it was at the time of Palmerston or Castlereagh, when these people could go off and sort of draft treaties by themselves.
Well, they gunboat diplomacy, Tom, which we don't want to encourage at
But the point, I suppose, here is that the Prime Minister can now pick up the phone to the President of the United States directly. He doesn't need that interlocutor. I mean, Ed Miliband, as Foreign Secretary, can go somewhere and cut a ribbon, can do that sort of almost royal family role to some extent, but he doesn't do the nitty-gritty negotiation. That's now done directly between world leaders in a way that 100 years ago it wasn't. And so is it really actually more of a ceremonial position than anything else?
Yes, to a degree. I mean, yes, he'll go to the foreign minister meeting, the counterpart meeting, to get ready for the G20, the G8. There's a whole kind of procedure they go through, and that will help him get out and about. I think it's just a great job to do. If you're the PR person, the chief diplomat for the UK on the world stage, you've got a seat in the Security Council. You can punch hard on the world stage. You're also a spending department. You're spending aid money rather than.
That's something we haven't even discussed yet. The idea that aid might be increased by the tune of £10 billion a year.
So from 0.2% of GDP to put 2.7% GDP under the Conservatives. That may happen. There's no money for it, and if they can't even fund, frankly, a 5% cut off VAT of household energy bills, they can't really sell a big increase in the aid budget.
Yeah, no, really significant stuff here. Well, we've seen. I haven't been counting. I'll tell you the truth.
Nor have I.
The number of cabinet ministers who have been coming through.
I think they're all here. I haven't yet seen Douglas Alexander, for example, the new Scotland secretary.
He's continuing as Scotland secretary.
Yes, continuing. Forgive me, continuing. We haven't seen Kanish Narawan. He's the minister for AI. We have seen others too, though. I think broadly all here.
Yeah, we saw Wes Streeting go in. We saw Ed Miliband just now.
Alex
we
Norris,
saw
Justice Secretary.
Angela Rayner before we came to us live on this camera. We saw go in. I mean, we've got all the big beasts in there, and frankly, anyone who's coming in now is cutting it very fine because the meeting starts in less than 3 minutes' time.
I know, and it does feel the excitement of a new government, and yet the familiar problems remain to me. The problems are that they haven't been able to manage how to spend money properly. Is the money there? Concerns already, I think, about the fact they can't fund this VAT cut properly.
Yeah, and that will be the big question that is raised about this government. It feels it's a bit like a general election campaign, where they're announcing all of these sort of trinkets to the general public, things that will test well on the doorsteps, but they haven't done the hard thinking in that building, number 11 Downing Street, with the white walls behind us, in order to fund all of those promises. And it's almost, as I was saying earlier, equal and opposite to the start of the Keir Starmer ministry, when they announced big sweeping cuts to things like winter fuel to try and save some money, but it went down terribly on the doorstep. Now, in precisely the opposite way, Andy Burnham has announced a tax cut for people on their energy bills, but he hasn't said how he'll fund it properly. And so whilst that's been better for the doorsteps, it might be worse for the markets and the people that, frankly, lend money to this government to keep the show on the road.
Yes, and we are watching those gilt markets quite closely. If the cost of borrowing goes up, some have been forecasting this could be a bit of a Liz Truss moment if they can't get this balance right. We're not there yet, and of course Parliament won't be a budget until some way into the autumn. Won't be in September, so we're some way away from that. But one further arrival about to arrive.
We've got a late comer to the. Lisa Nandy, are you late to the meeting?
That's Lisa Nandy, of course. She is the Culture Secretary. We had thought she'd be going to a super ministry dealing with devolution and a big kind of English regions department. That didn't happen.
She's through the door with a minute to spare. She'll be rushing into her seat around that lozenge-shaped table.
Yes, or coffin-shaped table, as some of us say. But yeah, we're not really clear. She's now arrived. How this all how the meeting? Well, we'll next see from the meeting photographs, opening remarks from Andy Burnham, the Prime Minister, about what he wants his team to say.
Sometimes they put out a little video of sort of 30 seconds of the opening of the meeting. We might well get that.
We should get that. And awkward grins. They should be smiling.
They survived the cull.
They survived the cull. Quite right. This is the last big gamble by this government. Away from this, there's 10 or 11 members of the cabinet who lost their job yesterday. Some are licking their wounds. Some are cross. Steve Reid, the housing secretary, he's cross. He may want to intervene and say some remarks about the housing plan.
Darren Jones so cross that he's already briefed against this government very publicly on Twitter.
That was quite unbelievable, actually. I mean, you might want to. He had implied he's off to the beach for August, I thought, by a message yesterday on X. Instead, on day 2, he's out there attacking this government. It's hardly helpful. They all want to win election, but I mean, but if it's true, it's true. And the ID cards was such a personal project for Darren Jones.
Yeah, it will have hurt. Well, Chris White, much more on this, of course, on the street as the cabinet meeting goes on, as all those cabinet ministers will be walking out of this street in not too long time as well. Well, Emily, back to you for now.
Well, thank you very much indeed. Lisa Nandy just running in at the last minute. Why not? She's there for 12:30. Thanks, Tom. We'll catch up with you in just a little bit. So, yes, they're all there, the new fresh cabinet. It's interesting, isn't it, how the cabinet just seems to grow and grow and grow. They'll let anyone in these days. But, yes, I wanted to reflect on Wes Streeting as our new Defence Secretary. Wes Streeting, who the former head of the British Army, Lord Dannatt, said only 2 days ago knows nothing, well, knows the square root of nothing about defence. Is this a concern? Let's speak to the former British Army spokesperson, Major Mike Shearer. Mike, thank you very much indeed for your time this afternoon. Yes, Lord Dannatt was pretty scathing. It was put to him that Wes Streeting could become the Defence Secretary, and he said he knew the square root of nothing about defence. Is this a big mistake?
Well, look, Dr. Samuel Johnson once said, every man thinks meanly of himself for not having been a soldier or been at sea. The reality is we have had Secretary of States without military experience before to varying degrees of ability. I'd say it is desirable, not essential, but it is a bigger risk because you lose political capital as you read the new incumbent into his brief, which is complex. And of course, there's more chance of getting it wrong with a new fellow that doesn't understand the complexities of defence, security and the armed forces. But we have had some good and some bad. Look, we had George Robertson, who was excellent and went on to be the NATO Secretary General. We had Philip Hammond, Spreadsheet Phil, who thought the MOD would run like a treat if you would only get rid of the uniforms and would call the ministry, well, just the ministry. Grant Shapps, who was just a placeholder for a short while. And, of course, Michael Heseltine, the less said there, the better. And there are many more, but this is not something new. It's just not ideal. And I heard Ben Wallace say removing Dan Jarvis to find a spot for Wes Streeting shows contempt for defence when it needs continuity. In truth, I think there was a much better fit. I'd much rather have seen Al Carnes appointed, who clearly understands defence and was a great advocate for veterans and was deeply opposed to the Northern Ireland Troubles Bill aimed at targeting soldiers and the Royal Ulster Constabulary, George Cross, let's not forget, who had operated under the law of armed conflict, to be dragged through the courts and investigated retrospectively through the lens of the European Convention of Human Rights, a completely different legal standard. And, the effects of
We need to know what Wes Streeting thinks about that issue.
Well, I would advise Wes Streeting to liaise post-haste with Lincoln Jopp, who is a Conservative. Let's see if he can link in with Lincoln Jopp's Private Members Bill protecting Northern Ireland veterans from prosecution. It's due to come to Parliament on the 4th of September, but there's already talk about using parliamentary procedure to strangle it at birth. It's exhausting for veterans watching the nonsense of the politic against the reality in the art form of living as a soldier.
But isn't this why it should be? There are people available that have served in the military, that have had long military careers, who could have been put up for this position. As you say, Al Carnes, Dan Jarvis, too. They understand this issue of veterans. They understand the issue of prosecutions. They will understand how you rally the troops, the concerns over the defence investment plan. Do you think Wes Streeting will be the man to up the spending? I mean, we hear about this $5 billion black hole. Andy Burnham hasn't pledged, I don't believe, to fill it.
Well, look, I think it's actually a £15 billion black hole, unless there's been money produced. I know there's been money promised, but I don't think they found where it's coming from yet. It will be interesting to watch. I don't know whether or not Rachel Reeves was genuinely ordered the MOD spot, but the irony of that change in positions, with the money holder becoming the blade and the blade becoming the money holder, as to how that dynamic would have worked out. Well, let's have a look now and see how the Chancellor of the Exchequer feels about giving the money required for the safety and security of the United Kingdom. It is paramount. It really is paramount. And the one thing that Al Kearns has been banging on about, I've been doing it on this channel for at least 3 years, is having a national discussion about our national resilience, about what people do. What does the United Kingdom do when missiles are chucked our way and start landing around the south coast? These discussions are happening in Europe, but none of our political masters have had the ability and the grit to stand up and call for this discussion, an honest discussion with the people of this country. If they
every now and again, Major Mike Shearer, we get a sort of list of items that we should keep, under the stairs in case of disasters. But I think you're right. We need to think about future resilience. Major Mike Shearer, I'm going to have to leave it there. But thank you very much indeed for your time, former British Army spokesperson. So yes, let me know what you think. We're treating a man who has no experience of defence matters, now our Defence Secretary responsible for our security. We're going to head back to Tom Harwood now. Tom Harwood, my co-host, and of course our Deputy Political Editor, who is outside number 10 Downing Street for us, as it is the first cabinet meeting of Andy Burnham.
That's right, Emily. Inside the building behind me now is His Britannic Majesty's new government. All of them sitting around that cabinet table deciding what our lives are going to be like for the next 3 years. Or could it be sooner? Could this be a government that's actually getting on to an election footing? Well, all that and much more to come after a very short break. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We've started the day with a lot of cloud, and some places will keep that cloud for much of the day. Otherwise, the cloud breaking up to give sunny spells and another warm or very warm day for many of us, especially towards the south and the southwest. High pressure still dominating the weather across the UK. It's slipped further west, allowing this cooler northwesterly airflow, and that's responsible for bringing in the cloud from the Atlantic. But the cloud does tend to break and lift with sunny spells developing. Having said that, there is some wildfire smoke in the air, so that will turn the sunshine hazy from time to time and drop temperatures by a degree compared with how they'd be without the wildfire smoke. I think highs of 28 Celsius across parts of East Wales into the southwest. Further north, it's going to feel cooler across Scotland. High teens, low 20s for many, and especially where we've got this cloud continuing, and some light showers for the north and northwest of Scotland. Mostly dry for Northern Ireland. A cloudy day by and large, but towards the south and east, some breaks in the cloud. England and Wales seeing decent sunny spells as we end the day and go into the evening, and still feeling warm, although with that breeze coming from the northwest. Lower humidities compared with a lot of the weather so far this July. So a fresh feel overnight, and in some spots, shelter from the breeze, and with clear skies, temperatures will dip into the single figures, but fairly widely we'll see temperatures remaining in the double figures, if not the teens, in main urban areas. Now, we start the day on Wednesday, similar to Tuesday, with a lot of cloud across Scotland, Northern Ireland into Northern England. Some showery rain for the north of Scotland, otherwise it's a dry start for most of us. Now, we'll see this cloud across northern areas sink further south and break through the afternoons. So, yeah, it'll come and go, and it'll be a dry and bright day for many. It'll be another warm day and a little bit warmer towards the east.
Thank you, Britain, for the thousands of you who are becoming friends of GB News each and every week.
Good afternoon, this is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. There is a collision on the M11 northbound between junctions 6 and 7 in Thaden Boy. The M1 southbound between junctions 15 and 14 near Milton Keynes is also affected by a collision. The M4 westbound has a lane closure between junctions 8 and 10 in Maidenhead. The M40 southbound slip road between junctions 10 and 9 in Bicester is congested. In Scotland, the M8 is restricted in both directions between junctions 16 and 18 due to essential bridge repair works, causing delays. And on the trains, cross-country services have no trains between Newton Abbot and Paignton. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Well, it's 12:40. You're watching and listening to Good Afternoon Britain with me, Emily Carver, and of course my co-host Tom Harwood, who's at number 10 at the moment outside in Downing Street because it is Andy Burnham's first cabinet meeting. And Tom, should Andy Burnham be slightly concerned that Darren Jones, the Starmerite and now sacked minister, is already briefing against the government?
It has a faint ring of what happened in the very early days. Well, I suppose there were no late days, but the Truss premiership, all 49 days of them. If we remember what happened when Liz Truss appointed her cabinet, she sacked everyone who disagreed with her. Almost every single appointment to her cabinet were people who supported her election campaign rather than Rishi Sunak's campaign to be Conservative Party leader. Now, she thought that that would make for a united government, all pulling in the same direction. But there was a flip side to that equation, and that was there were some very, very senior, very, very powerful figures who ended up sacked from the cabinet, people like Michael Gove, for instance, who then became very, very vocal critics of the Liz Truss ministry from the backbenches. I think we can all remember when Michael Gove, on the eve of Conservative Party conference in 2022, declared that he was against the tax cut of the top rate of tax from 45p in the pound to 40p in the pound. That spearheaded an enormous rebellion that ended up bringing down Liz Truss and her ministry. Now, I'm not saying that we're anything close to that with Andy Burnham, far from it, but there is just the faintest reminiscence of what happened there. You've got enormous figures, all of them close to Keir Starmer, to a man and a woman sacked yesterday, 11 of them from the cabinet, just the most enormous purge of the Starmer loyalists. Now, some of those people are feeling really rather aggrieved, being sent from the heart of government to the backbenches of the House of Commons. They're not going to spend the entire summer just twiddling their thumbs and sunning themselves on a beach. Many of them will have axes to grind, and we've seen the very first hint of that this morning with Darren Jones' frankly astonishing tweet. I don't think anyone in the Burnham circle would have thought that someone so early would try and undermine such a pivotal policy announcement in the very first full day of the Burnham ministry. It feels like that there is a slight civil war in the Labour Party, and for everything that Andy Burnham said last Friday about ending the factional warfare within the Labour Party that has been going on, well, since time immemorial, it seems that truce between the different factions lasted for about 3 full days. It's well and truly over now.
And Tom, there may be some sacked ministers who have axes to grind who are plotting over the summer holidays. Of course there may be, but I must say Rachel Reeves, the sacked Chancellor, she was at the pub yesterday evening. She was glowing. She looked about 15 years younger now. The weight of being Chancellor is off her shoulders. Extraordinary what leaving a very difficult job can look like for your skin. But yes, on the matter of this cut to energy bills, so this is the VAT, which is 5%, and this is on electricity bills. So they're saying about £45 off the average household. I must say, people getting in touch saying this wouldn't even get them fish and chips for a family of 4.
Yeah, it's the sort of tokenistic element of it, but I think that the politics here runs deep. It's not an insignificant amount of money for the Treasury to find, over £600 million just for this financial year. Now, they say they're going to get that money from the money that is no longer being spent on the digital ID scheme, but of course, as we were just discussing, Darren Jones there saying the money hadn't actually been found for the digital ID scheme. It had been demanded for the digital ID scheme, but ultimately it was due to come from efficiency savings across government departments. Now, those efficiencies are yet to be made, and they have not been specified in any Treasury document. So at the moment, these are a little bit fictitious. So is this money actually going to come from these so-called efficiency savings? Possibly, but they have not yet been found. And this then delivers a pretty difficult problem for the government. They couldn't announce something bigger because they couldn't sort of sell that it could be funded without some sort of tax rise. And yet, as small as it is, some people will be saying that this is not a lot of help on their electricity bills. And of course, there's a question mark as to whether even that is funded. So the government is in a bit of a tricky position between a rock and a hard place here. If it tried to go for a larger measure, it would have to find even more money. But the small measure as it stands, they are still looking for that over £600 million that as yet seems unfunded.
Yes, and it looks as though our new Energy Secretary, in the shape of Miata Fambula, who is very much an Ed Miliband fan and perhaps a protege of his, is going to be going more and more for the renewables in a bid to get those energy bills down. So we'll see what happens there, whether we'll be seeing any more oil and gas coming out of the North Sea. We'll have to wait and see. Tom, we'll come back to you very soon. Tom Harwood there. We'll speak to you later. He's on number 10 Downing Street for us. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. We do have a lot more coming up on today's show. Yes, any UK politician who gave Trump the time of day should be ashamed. Who said that? Well, that's our Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, back in 2021. But just hours after entering number 10 himself, Burnham has invited the US President to Manchester for the G20 summit. I guess times change, don't they? But if you're in search of some holiday sun, here's the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heavy rain will affect parts of Bulgaria and thunderstorms will pop up in a few places in Italy on Wednesday, but otherwise it's dry and sunny for many parts of Europe at the moment. Breezy once again for the Canaries and for Madeira. Iberia, light winds, temperatures inland up to the high 30s, widespread sunny skies. Here are those showers popping up across Italy. There's area of rain moving through parts of Greece into Bulgaria, where it will be particularly heavy before drying up later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What do you think about where we're going to get our future athletes and our Olympians from when we're telling our children, oh, you can't go out and partake in sports today because it's a bit hot?
It really worries me. We have a generation that spend their life being very inactive, an awful lot of time on mobile telephones, coming up with every excuse as to not to move and not to be moving. Sport in schools is where we can catch every kid. And the kids that will lose out are the kids that come from areas of deprivation, because the parents that can afford to make sure their children do sport will still do that. But the parents that can't afford, sadly, will miss out. So it's really important that our kids, do enough physical activity, lay down these habits, understand about how their body works and nutrition and food and looking after themselves and health. We have a health crisis. It's really important we start early.
The People's Channel. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
GB News entertainment editor Alex Davies joins us now. What a woman, what a voice, what an incredible life. What more can you tell us?
Yeah, like you said, she's a singer whose songs have transcended generations, really. Everybody knows Total Eclipse of the Heart. Everybody knows Holding Out for a Hero. She's been awarded an MBE. She represented the UK at Eurovision. And it's just very sad. Tributes have already started to pour in from across the showbiz world and just fans in general, This is somebody who's, like I said, transcended generations with her music and will continue to do so posthumously.
Well, thanks so much. I met her just once in a green room. She was an absolute delight, and even speaking, she had that great rasping voice.
Oh, what an incredible voice.
Incredible voice.
GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's newsroom, weekday mornings from 9:30.
So you go along to the car showroom and only like 10%, at most maybe 15%, pay cash. the rest buy on some form of financing. And you often buy, it's a bit like a mortgage, and it's like buying a mortgage from the estate agent, which we all know is a terribly bad idea. Yeah. But this is what people did. And the deal is, the scandal is, the guys in the showroom were acting as dealers and brokers, and they were in many cases inflating the interest rate that you paid so that they could get bigger commission. And they didn't declare that. So you basically ended up paying more for your car than you would otherwise have done if you'd gone into the open market and found yourself, a better deal.
How did that come to light?
Well, over many years. I mean, this has been going on since 2007.
GB News, the People's Channel.
12:50 is the time. I'm Emily Carver. Now, just one day into the role, and the new Prime Minister has already held talks with Donald Trump, as is custom, which the US President has dubbed interesting. Now, the Prime Minister invited Donald Trump to Manchester for next year's G20 summit during his phone call. But just 5 years ago, Andy Burnham took to social media to criticise the US President, writing any UK politician who gave Trump the time of day should be ashamed. And I believe earlier he even said he's not welcome in Manchester. So times change. Anyway, joining me is Executive Director of Unleash Prosperity and former George W. Bush White House official, Tim Duscher. Tim, thank you very much indeed for joining us this afternoon. So, he's a left-wing politician, Andy Burnham. He's said some things about Donald Trump in the past. This is quite customary. He's talked about extreme views. He said people might feel deeply unsettled if Donald Trump came to the United Kingdom. This was in the past. Can they start afresh?
Yeah, of course they can. And this is how President Trump is. He loves the UK. By the way, we Americans love the UK. We want the UK to succeed. We want this prime minister to be successful. You are our greatest partner and ally in freedom and liberty, free market capitalism. This is a very important relationship. And President Trump, in his Truth Social post, as he does, laid out the roadmap for a successful relationship there. Are we going to play ball with trade? Are we going to make good deals? Are we going to help out with clearing mines in the Straits of Hormuz and maybe, allowing us to use bases if we need to? I mean, these are things that President Trump cares about. Also, energy independence as the free world leads the way. This is not just, hey, UK, we want you to drill oil and you to benefit. No, this is a mutually beneficial thing to go up and extract more oil from the Strait of from the North Sea, so we don't have to rely on the Strait of Hormuz as a global commodity. The problem is
these are areas that are very controversial over here in Britain. North Sea oil and gas, Ed Miliband, the new Foreign Secretary, very much against. We're yet to see whether Andy Burnham actually will allow us to drill a little more in the North Sea, so that awaits to be seen. We also know Ed Miliband was very against the US using our UK bases at the beginning of the Iran war. He's the Foreign Secretary. So it's going to be tricky, isn't it?
I didn't say that it was going to be easy. I said that this is a roadmap for a nice, kind relationship with President Trump. Look, this is the bottom line. Are you going to? The UK has a very simple decision to make. Are you going to take the Labour and the former Tories way of tax and spend more, your way to prosperity, or are you going to use your resources and rely on the private sector to grow and expand the pie so you get more government revenue coming in, so then you can help invest in more programs with the federal government? That's all there is to it here. I mean, you can go to the same playbook and you're going to end up where you were with Starmer, where he had to resign basically in shame, or you can try another way, and I think that's what President Trump was positing here.
Well, apparently they spoke a little about football. So there you go. There's some common ground on that anyway. Andy Burnham is a little bit more normal, some would say, than Sir Keir Starmer.
Well, look, I mean, policy matters, though. You can be as normal as you can, but if you apply the wrong policy to things, as has been happening over the last 10 years in Great Britain, you're not going to see a different result. Insanity, doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. That's not going to work here. And so I think President Trump really does want, and I do think the oil is a big deal. I really do. The North Sea, it seems like a gimme. It's an easy thing to go get it, and then you can get the revenue from that if this is what it's about, and you can also secure
Well, our new energy secretary is a very powerful net zero advocate, so we'll see what happens there. Tim Duscher, really appreciate your time this afternoon. Thank you so much. This is Good Afternoon Britain. Lots more coming up on today's show. Yes, the first cabinet meeting of Andy Burnham's new government. Let's have a look at the weather.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We've started the day with a lot of cloud, and some places will keep that cloud for much of the day. Otherwise, the cloud breaking up to give sunny spells and another warm or very warm day for many of us, especially towards the south and the southwest. High pressure still dominating the weather across the UK. It's slipped further west, allowing this cooler northwesterly airflow, and that's responsible for bringing in the cloud from the Atlantic. But the cloud does tend to break and lift with sunny spells developing. Having said that, there is some wildfire smoke in the air, so that will turn the sunshine hazy from time to time and drop temperatures by a degree compared with how they'd be without the wildfire smoke. I think highs of 28 Celsius across parts of East Wales into the southwest. Further north, it's going to feel cooler across Scotland. High teens, low 20s for many, and especially where we've got this cloud continuing, and some light showers for the north and northwest of Scotland. Mostly dry for Northern Ireland. A cloudy day by and large, but towards the south and east, some breaks in the cloud. England and Wales seeing decent sunny spells as we end the day and go into the evening, and still feeling warm, although with that breeze coming from the northwest. Lower humidities compared with a lot of the weather so far this July. So a fresh feel overnight, and in some spots, shelter from the breeze, and with clear skies, temperatures will dip into the single figures. But fairly widely, we'll see temperatures remaining in the double figures, if not the teens, in main urban areas. Now, we start the day on Wednesday, similar to Tuesday, with a lot of cloud across Scotland, Northern Ireland into northern England. Some showery rain for the north of Scotland. Otherwise, it's a dry start for most of us. Now, we'll see this cloud across northern areas sink further south and break through the afternoons. So, yeah, it'll come and go, and it'll be a dry and bright day for many. It'll be another warm day and a little bit warmer towards the east.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
What would you do with £60,000 cash? What would you do with a real gold bar? Well, both have to be won in our Golden Summer celebration. First, there's £60,000 in tax-free cash to bolster your bank account this year. Plus, we'll also give you a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on a BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain is not just a geographical expression. We are a people bound together by history and culture that are distinctively British. Join me to celebrate our music, theatre, artworks and literature, which we can explore and enjoy together.
Everybody's welcome.
Sunday with Michael Portillo. Every Sunday at 11 a.m. on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches.
From football to tennis in the car.
In the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there. With the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again to start your day just right.
GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Good afternoon, Britain. It's 1 o'clock on Tuesday, the 21st of July. Live from Downing Street, I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
But I can do something to give people some breathing space now, some help with the cost of living.
Yes, Andy Burnham says he'll remove VAT on your electricity bills, but that plan has already descended into farce. The sacked Starmer loyalist Darren Jones claims the policy is completely unfunded.
It's the honour of my life to have been asked by the Prime Minister to be the Foreign Secretary of our country.
Yes, it may be the honour of his life, but the White House is reportedly deeply concerned about Andy Burnham's decision to appoint Ed Miliband as his Foreign Secretary.
Now, I will soon go through that door behind me and issue my first instruction to end rough sleeping in our country.
Yes, Mr Burnham wants to end rough sleeping, but should he reflect on his efforts closer to home, because he failed spectacularly to keep a promise to get homeless people off the streets in Greater Manchester? I'll share the figures with you later on. And any UK politician who gave Trump the time of day should be ashamed. Yes, those are the words of our new Prime Minister back in 2021. Just hours after entering number 10, Andy Burnham has invited the US President to Manchester for the G20 summit. How things change. And net zero fanatic Miata Van Bula takes the job of Energy Secretary. Will she follow Ed Miliband's lead and reject North Sea oil and gas? And it was buried by the Burnham news yesterday, wasn't it? But the Ministry of Justice is taking legal action to block the publication of foreign nationals' crime rates in England and Wales. With David Lammy out, will a new Justice Secretary bring more transparency? And tributes are flooding in from around the world for King Kev. Yes, Kevin Keegan, the former England player and manager who has sadly died aged 75. Well, yes, this is Good Afternoon Britain, and it's a big day for Andy Burnham and his fresh new government, a big cabinet meeting. Tom, we're hearing now that the cost of living was front and centre.
Yes, indeed. Now, this cabinet meeting is still going on in the building behind me. We expect that it will last about an hour. It started at 12:30, so it should finish in the next half an hour or so. We should also have a glimpse inside once it's over. There will be a clip that is put out by number 10 team, as is fairly usual in big sort of inaugural cabinets like this one. But ultimately, it does seem that Andy Burnham wants to get his new ministry off on one big, strong message, and that is to ease the cost of living. We've heard the announcement already on VAT on electricity bills, at least for this financial year, and there will be more announcements, so we're told, on cost of living in order to try to ease the burden. Andy Burnham has pinpointed this as perhaps the greatest and gravest concern of people in the country today, that it's just harder to get on and harder to get by. He wants to make some big totemic moves towards easing that, frankly, Emily, in precisely the opposite way that Keir Starmer's ministry kicked off with their announcements of fiscal consolidation, with their announcements of means testing the winter fuel allowance and so on, talking about their big black hole at the centre of finances. It seems that Andy Burnham is doing precisely the opposite.
Yes, we know how unpopular scrapping the winter fuel allowance was. That really started a chain of events, didn't it? Tom Harwood, we'll come back to you in one moment. In the meantime, please do get in touch, gbnews.com/yoursay, but let's get to the headlines.
Emily, thank you and good afternoon. The top stories. Prime Minister Andy Burnham told the first meeting of his cabinet we need to be a cost of living government and give people a sense that help is coming. Members of his top team were seen arriving at number 10, including Chancellor John Healey, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood and Housing Secretary Angela Rayner, among others. Andy Burnham earlier announced a fresh tax cut to remove VAT from domestic electricity bills from the 1st of October from 5% to 0%. Andy Burnham has vowed to always show how we're going to pay for policies. In remarks to his cabinet in front of the media before the private meeting, the new Prime Minister told his cabinet we will seek to do more with plans to be set out over the coming days. Reform Party Chairman Lee Anderson spoke to GB News.
It's the same old people. All it's done is a shuffle. Just shuffled the same old faces around. Some of those faces have been around that place for donkey's years, and that's all it is. It's the same people. It's a bit like having a failing football team, guys, and all you do is just swap the positions of the players. So I don't really recognise any new places in the odd one, to be honest. But like I said to you yesterday, the problem that Andy Burnham's got is he may set off with good intentions, but he's got the same 400 backbench MPs behind him. And if they don't want him to do something, he won't be allowed to do it.
The rate of UK unemployment remained unchanged at 4.9% in the 3 months to May, the Office for National Statistics has today revealed. UK average regular earnings growth remained unchanged at 3.4% in the 3 months to May and was 0.4% higher after taking consumer prices index inflation into account. Meanwhile, the government borrowed slightly less than expected in June, according to official figures. Borrowing was £16 billion last month, £7.9 billion lower than June last year. Elsewhere, the cause of Anne Widdecombe's death is yet to be established. The opening of an inquest into her death has today heard. The 78-year-old former MP and MEP was found dead at her home in Devon on the 9th of July, with visible injuries, Exeter Coroner's Court heard. Joshua Carey, who's 28 from Rotherham in South Yorkshire, has arrived at Westminster Magistrates Court, where he is due to appear charged with her murder this afternoon. The investigation, which remains ongoing, has been led by counter-terrorism policing in South East, supported by Devon and Cornwall Police. And a Russian warship has carried out a live-fire military exercise around 40 nautical miles off the UK coast. The vessel, which was shadowed by a Royal Navy ship seen here, carried out the artillery manoeuvre south of Plymouth yesterday. A Ministry of Defence spokesperson said the Royal Navy continues to track the vessel's activity closely and stands ready to protect UK national security. Before the exercise, the Russian vessel informed HMS Tyne of its intention to conduct gunnery activity. Those are the latest headlines. More in half an hour.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Welcome back. This is Good Afternoon Britain. It's 7 minutes past 1. Now, it wasn't until about 11 o'clock last night, poor Christopher Hope, our political editor, of course, that Andy Burnham had announced all his big cabinet positions. It took many, many hours for him to get through it, but it was a brutal purge of some of these Starmer loyalists that were in those top jobs. But yes, after days of speculation, Defence Secretary John Healey, he's the Chancellor. That's a bit of a shock move. In a shock move praised by military chiefs, apparently, because that could signal a boost to defence spending. Shabana Mahmood retains her position as Home Secretary. Angela Rayner, of course, is back. Yes, she is Housing Secretary, and Wes Streeting takes on the role of Defence Secretary. But defence experts, including the former head of the British Army, have said he knows the square root of nothing about defence, so is that a concern? And Andy Burnham has already got a bit of a Labour infighting problem. Yes, Darren Jones, who another star Starmer loyalist who's been axed, says the government doesn't exactly know how it's going to pay for policies that they've already announced, including this VAT cut on electricity bills. So let's speak to GB News Deputy Political Editor Tom Harwood and our Political Editor Christopher Hope, who are both live on Downing Street for us. Big day, the Cabinet meeting still underway. What are we hearing, though? What's out there already?
Well, yes, Emily, that Cabinet meeting taking place in the building behind us now. We saw a parade of Cabinet ministers. I don't know, what's the collective noun for Cabinet ministers? Perhaps a parliament of Cabinet ministers, I don't know.
I'll say chaos of Cabinet ministers, given what's happened in the past few months and weeks with this Labour government appointing themselves with no actual general election. The new government is formed, has it not, Tom?
Yeah.
And yet without any election.
Well, that's going to be a point of contention. However, there does seem to be a bit of an election feel about everything that's being announced. We were talking just during the advert break, and I was being reminded of the summer of 2019 when Boris Johnson became Prime Minister, and there was only one day that Parliament sat, and then it was a long recess of sort of announcements where Boris Johnson announced the 20,000 new police officers he was going to recruit, billions more for the NHS, things to sort of put the Conservative Party in a better electoral standing. And then a few months later, there was a general election.
It was different then, but I think the Brexit debate, which emerged, of course, in September, was what really, I think, overshadowed all of that. I don't recall that happening in the same way, but I guess you're right looking at the record. We're looking now at images of the Cabinet having a cup of coffee, it looks like,
in the garden.
In the garden on the terrace there, where I was yesterday, talking to the new Prime Minister when he spoke to journalists. Look quite friendly and chatty, don't they?
Yeah, so lots of cups of tea, lots of smiles, but of course these are the great survivors of what was a pretty brutal cabinet reshuffle with 11 ministers attending cabinet sacked.
Yes.
Well, why don't we have a little listen to what Andy Burnham said at the start of this cabinet meeting, which is still ongoing in Downing Street. Let's have a listen to that first very moment.
Thank you so much, colleagues, and congratulations first. Those of you who've taken new positions, thank you for stepping up to serve, and for those reappointed to your roles, please take that as a major vote of confidence in you. And we feel like a good team. That's certainly how I feel today. A good team that reflects the party, the country, all backgrounds. You know, I think we're going to work really well together.
So Andy Burnham there saying that the cabinet, or his cabinet, reflects the whole country. There's been some criticism at just how many ministers come from the Greater Manchester area and how few come from the southeast of England.
None from London, and that's been remarked on already on social media.
Is Miata Fambulla a London MP?
Possibly.
I think she might be Peckham.
Is she a full member though? But anyway.
Yes, Energy.
Okay, she's. There's only one there. Not many, not compared to before. Now we're looking now at Burnham speaking. Now, other things he said in this meeting are quite interesting. He said he would vow to or show how we're going to pay for policies. We will all seek to do more with plans to be set out over the coming days, but we'll show how we're going to pay for it, what we are prioritising. That will be a theme that we always come back to. Why that is so important and why that might prompt hollow laughter amongst GB News viewers and listeners this morning is that they said they would pay for this 5% cut in VAT, a Brexit dividend, if you like, but VAT coming off household energy bills. That's unfunded, Tom, because we're told it was paying for scrapping the ID card scheme. Well, no, it's not, because that hasn't been funded, we're told, by Darren Jones, who ran the scheme under, of course, Keir Starmer.
Yeah, and this is, I suppose, one of the big questions as we look at who is that? Douglas Alexander, Scotland Secretary, Chris Bryant there, who's Northern Ireland Secretary, Wes Streeting there, another London MP, who is Defence Secretary now.
Tom, can I say one thing I find interesting? The lady in the green hair is Lucy Powell.
Yes.
Now, she is, of course, the deputy leader of the Labour Party, but she's not the first minister, the first Secretary of State in this government.
No, that's Lou Haig.
That's Lou Haig, and that's what's so interesting. So who is the real deputy? Is it Lucy Powell? Is it Lou Haig? I just put these things out because that will become a theme in coming months, possibly.
But ordinarily, you'd expect the Chancellor to be sitting next to the Prime Minister. That's often the picture that we saw of Keir Starmer sitting around that famous cabinet table with Rachel Reeves by his side. Interesting that Lucy Powell, who is forgive me, which she is now Secretary of State for. This is something we will know on the tip of our tongue by the end of the week. But there were so many appointments yesterday. She's Education Secretary.
Education, of course, yes.
But it seems strange that Education Secretary, and of course education is important. It's not a great office of state. It's not seen as one of the most significant roles in the cabinet, and yet she is sitting there by the right-hand side of the Prime Minister, or actually by the left-hand side of the Prime Minister.
Yes, on the right is a cabinet secretary.
Yeah, and so is this actually because of her role in the Labour Party? Because she's deputy leader of the Labour Party, close friend of Andy Burnham. They go back a long, long time. Both Manchester MPs,
but not in government. It's a government meeting.
Exactly. This is the point I'm trying to make. Is actually this much more of a Labour Party affair than it is a government affair?
Well, on the way in, Lucy Powell was asked, "Are you happy with what you've got?" Because we thought more than this. We thought she'd be the deputy prime minister. Actually, she isn't. It looks like it's Louisa Haig, and she raised her thumbs to indicate she was happy.
Yeah.
I got some more remarks that's come through on what the PM told this meeting. He says they're looking at all possible ways to help families struggling with high costs. He said this: what we can do just to take that little bit of pressure off people's shoulders, just to give them that extra sense that help is coming, so that we can have that extra bit of hope that things are getting better. That's a mission that we've got to set ourselves. And as it goes on, he asked his colleagues to look into what their department could do to ease cost of living pressures, big and small. We need to be a cost of living government, he says, taking that cost of living down, looking at all possible ways of doing that.
I've just noticed something, Chopper. This promise to wear a T-shirt with a suit jacket, it did not last long, did it? Yesterday he was wearing a suit.
Yes.
Today he's wearing a suit. Has the machinery of government, the civil service, already worn him down and said, actually, mate, come on, smarten up. You're the Prime Minister now.
You do see some leaders dressed down because of their power. You think of the North Korean leader dressing down. You think of others, Kim Jong-il,
Xi Jinping.
But yeah, they dress differently to show their authority.
Narendra Modi.
Yes, we haven't had that yet from Andy Burnham. He is wearing the clothes. I think you dress, frankly, to respect the person you're speaking to, in my opinion. That's why we all dress so smartly at GBNews, Tom, of course. And that's what you're seeing there from Andy Burnham. But the informality is interesting. We are due to see him. We'll hear more in the briefing with lobby journalists now at 3 o'clock today. He'll probably be, I would imagine, off to Scotland very shortly, maybe tomorrow.
He's
Northern Ireland,
really
Wales.
got to prove that he's not just the Prime Minister for Manchester, but actually, frankly, for the whole country. Because surprisingly, and this was in an Economist sort of heat map of the country yesterday, very popular in the northwest and the northeast. Surprisingly unpopular in the central belt in Scotland, in Essex specifically, and across the south of England, much weaker popularity than in the north of England. He's got a way to go if he wants to, and there are more seats, frankly, in the south of England
and
than there are in the north of
seats
England.
too. The issue of rural seats, rural concerns. In the old days, Labour would push against that as the Metropolitan Party. Now, because of the Tories did so badly the last election, they hold rural seats, which they're not used to holding. Just to go back to that line there from the Prime Minister, sorry, before you go, he says here that they will make sure that we set out how we're going to pay for things, show our workings. That has completely blown up in their faces on day one of this government, Tom.
Yeah, and people will be watching that very closely indeed, as this government has a lot to prove on whether or not it can pay for its promises. Well, back to you, Emily, because lots going on here in Downing Street. No doubt we'll be seeing these cabinet ministers pop out in a moment or two.
Yes, you were talking about why Andy Burnham has chosen to have those two female politicians beside him, ministers, I should say. I think it's because of the photo op, Tom. Remember, there were lots of briefings about how Andy Burnham was going to be the first female Prime Minister. Could it have something to do with that?
But he could have chosen Lou Hay, who's the first Secretary of State, so technically his Deputy Prime Minister, the de facto Deputy Prime Minister. If Andy Burnham were to fall ill or get hit by a bus or whatever else, he could then, it would be Lou Hay who steps into his role. It's surprising that she is not sitting right next to him. But then again, she was, of course, sacked by Sir Keir Starmer after personal issues.
Yes, true, but his new Chancellor is a greying, slightly older gentleman, so perhaps that wouldn't be the look he wants for this new look cabinet. But thank you very much indeed, Tom Harwood and Christopher Hope. We'll come back to you very soon indeed. Now, one issue which is very important indeed is energy. And we know Donald Trump has been on the phone to Andy Burnham. I'm sure he's telling him to open up North Sea oil and gas, more exploration decision, not less. Well, Ed Miliband's no longer in that job, Energy Secretary and Net Zero Secretary. It's Miata Fanbula. What do we know about this woman who's now got this very important job? Well, let's speak to the campaign director at Net Zero Watch, Maurice Cousins. Maurice, thank you very much indeed for coming in this afternoon. So, yes, we found out Ed Miliband is no longer in that role. Instead, we have Miata Fanbula. What should we know about her?
Well, she's a seasoned think tanker. She's operated in sort of Westminster for a number of years. I think prior to being in government, she was well known for having been in at a think tank called the New Economics Foundation, which is I think broadly described as sort of a new left, extreme left sort of think tank, which has a very different conception of economics and, well, I suppose you could say reality, really. They published a series of sort of publications.
They call themselves progressive.
Progressive, yes. A very interesting euphemism. But, you know, I think she's published a series of sort of publications even under her own name where, you know, she's called for more tax, more spend. It's the usual sort of story, more regulation, discriminating against sectors that they've deemed to be morally and socially, environmentally unethical. And
but it sounds like she's very excited about the job.
Yeah.
She's certainly been a supporter of Ed Miliband and the move to renewables. She's talked about a climate emergency, a climate crisis, how we need to bring down energy bills. I'm just looking at her most recent post on social media after learning that she got this job. She's saying, my focus is working to bring bills down for good. So her view is that we need to shift away from gas, we need to shift away from fossil fuels ASAP in order to do so. What would you say to her?
Very little evidence. I mean, we've got the highest industrial power prices in the developed world. I mean, no one can sit here and deny that there have been, spikes that have happened. So Ukraine and Iran have obviously played that. But, you know, what those things don't really explain are the long-term trend in terms of that rise. And that really has been that over the last 2 decades, we've been pursuing an agenda that was originally sort of set up by Ed Miliband in the late 2000s and pursued vigorously by the Conservatives when they were in government. And what that has basically resulted in is in us trying to produce power in the most inefficient way that you could imagine via things like renewables, so like wind and the sun. And I think one of the mistakes that often people make in Westminster and in the media is they think that just because the wind and the sun are sort of free, not as people might sort of think, what they often ignore is that in order for you to make that energy useful, the kit that's required is often very expensive.
At least we now have 5% off our electricity bills. Quick word on that.
Well, that's great. I'm sure a lot of families will be really happy with it, but ultimately it's not going to fix the underlying problem, which is that we're making energy structurally more expensive in this country. And, there's not much that she can do really around that. The framework that this government supports and will remain in place just will continue to push those costs up. So, yeah, you might get a very small short-term relief, but it's a one-term hit. But the long-term direction on this is only way it's up. They might put some costs into general taxation, but that just means our taxes remain higher.
Well, there's going to be a lot of pressure coming from the United States, isn't there, over North Sea oil and gas, and also the people of Aberdeen in particular, who are seeing their livelihoods destroyed, or indeed they're having to make massive changes to their lives as a result of everything that's going on or not going on in the North Sea. Thomas has got in touch. The more I think about it, the angrier it makes me. Help with the cost of living, 86p a week. That's an insult. You wouldn't even buy a cup of gravy in Manchester. I'm enjoying all the Manchester references. Yes, a lot of you getting in touch to say, why is the G20 summit going to be in Manchester? Believe it or not, our capital is London. Well, may as well show off another city. Maurice Cousins, thank you very much indeed for coming on the show this afternoon. Well, I believe we're going to be taking a very quick break and then we'll get back to Tom Harwood on Downing Street, but lots more coming up.
Now, I will soon go through that door behind me and issue my first instruction to end rough sleeping in our country.
Well, yes, Mr. Burnham, he says he's going to end rough sleeping, but his record back in Manchester is rather mixed. He failed spectacularly to keep a promise to get homeless people off the streets. I'll share the figures with you later on, but after the break. It was buried by the Burnham News yesterday, but the Ministry of Justice is taking legal action to block the publication of foreign nationals' crime rates in England and Wales. Now, David Lammy is out, but will a new Justice Secretary bring a little more transparency? All of that and more to come. You're with GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way. You will not want to miss it, trust me.
The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's Tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong Tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Here at GB News, we made a promise to tell your stories.
And on the 6th of August, we're marking 5 years of doing exactly that.
Celebrate with us by having your say. Join in the debates live on TV and radio.
And meeting your favourite presenters across the country, from Leeds to Aberdeen, from Belfast to Barry Island.
Plus, join me in Essex for our biggest live show of the year. Scan the QR code or visit gbnews.com/celebrate. Terms and conditions apply.
At the stroke of midnight, the news doesn't stop, and neither do we.
Day in, day out. Forget stuffy late night TV shows. We're giving you a front row ticket to the centre of the political universe.
Because breaking news doesn't wait for the morning.
And neither do we. Join us for one of the most controversial and volatile times of politics in human history.
A very big story.
Big story over here.
You won't get this anywhere else. The Late Show live at midnight, every night.
Only on GB News.
OK, welcome back. This is Good Afternoon Britain. Now, as we speak, Andy Burnham is still in his meeting with his new fresh look cabinet, although there are a lot of familiar faces still in there. It's a sort of a reshuffle rather than a fresh new cabinet. But anyway, meanwhile, there is still a row over migrant crime data going on behind the scenes. Yes, the Ministry of Justice is appealing an Information Commissioner's ruling, ordering it to release conviction data by nationality and offence type. Now, critics say the public has a right to know the data when it comes to which foreign nationals are committing crimes in this country. Well, ministers insist they cannot comment because the case is now before the courts. Well, joining me now to discuss this is crime and justice journalist David Shipley. Now, David, you've written on this today. This is all seemingly going on behind the scenes. This was David Lammy leading this, wasn't it? Legal action to block the publication of this crime data. What would this crime data have shown?
Well, it's actually been going on for longer than that, so I think it's probably senior civil servants blocking it, because the Centre of Migration Control have, since last June, been trying to get hold of data showing crime by type of offence and by nationality, because I think we all know intuitively and by what's reported in the news that certain nationalities are overrepresented in certain crimes, and yet for some reason the government doesn't want us to see the real data.
I mean, they say that the cost of providing the information would be disproportionate. Some of the data could lead to breaches of right to privacy because people's details could be put out there. Do you buy that?
I don't at all. And they've chopped and changed. So initially, when the first Freedom of Information request went in, they said, "Oh, this would be a breach of data protection. It would reveal people's identity." Of course, it won't. No one's asking for individual details of offences and offenders. It's offence type in broad categories, as sort of sexual offences, theft offences, violence against the person, and the person's nationality. That's it. So it's a spurious argument. And then when they realised they were losing on that, they suddenly said it'll be too expensive. But if cost was a real concern, well, frankly, they're about to spend a lot more money defending this case than they were just handing over the data. They don't want us to know, and that's the issue.
So this isn't an issue to do with David Lammy as Justice Secretary. This has been successive governments not wanting to release this information, presumably because they worry it might make people angry?
Yeah, I think the only real reason I can imagine they want to hold on to this data is because they know the data will be inherently radicalising. It will show that mass migration is doing great harm. It will show there are certain nationalities who are disproportionately criminal, and therefore we shouldn't be letting them into the country. And other grown-up countries publish this data. Denmark publishes this data. Germany publishes this data. But apparently in Britain, we're not allowed to see it. And I think that's appalling.
Well, that is true, isn't it? It's quite common in countries in Europe for this kind of data to be available. Or is it just Denmark?
I think Germany published data like this as well. France, of course, don't, because they don't capture any data on ethnicity and nationality. But it's this is a matter of serious policy making, and the British people deserve to have the actual data about the impact of migration, so they can vote accordingly. It seems to me a very obvious thing.
I mean, I'm trying to put my head in the mindset, sort of get into the mindset of someone who would not want to release this data. Presumably, they would worry that this could alienate people, could reap division in the country, that people might tar everyone from a certain nationality with the same brush when it comes to crime.
I think those are probably the sorts of things they think. Yes, if you read Protecting What Matters, which is the government's cohesion strategy, which came out earlier this year, they're really terrified of the idea of information which might radicalise people. And there's a new term they're starting to use in some reports, which is malinformation.
Malinformation?
Malinformation, which is things that are true, but which might be upsetting or cause problems, and which therefore we should be careful.
Well, hang on, the government are using these types of words. What, civil servant?
Yes, so there was some coverage yesterday about this report defining certain kinds of things as bad information. It was talking about the idea that the male boxer was a man, that sort of thing. And in the academic paper underneath that, they talk about malinformation, which is this category of information which are things that are true, but which if you're spreading them, you might cause bad things to happen. And I think that's how they think about it. You've got to remember the British state thinks now of the native population of these islands as a difficult group to be managed and to be kept accepting of what's going on. And I think a lot of this is about that. They don't want us to see information which might make us cross, and they don't want us to see information which might make us unhappy with the way
I guess, David, I mean, mass immigration was and is a policy choice. Therefore, the public, who pay the wages of our politicians and vote them in, deserve to know the consequences. David, thank you very much indeed for talking us through. We'll see if we ever get transparency on this data. I think everyone in this country has a right to know who is committing crimes there. Crime and Justice journalist David Shipley. Now, a Ministry of Justice spokesperson said it did not recognise claims of a cover-up, adding we're in the process of appealing the ICO's decision and we do not comment on live legal proceedings. Well, I'm pleased to say we're now joined by Tom Harwood and our political editor Christopher Hope outside number 10 Downing Street. Take it away.
Yes, indeed, Emily. We're getting intimations that this cabinet meeting is wrapping up now, and it's been one that's focused on the cost of living. It seems like the government really does look at those opinion polls that consistently say this is the biggest concern of the majority of people. The top three issues are usually economy, health service, immigration, in various orders. Well, the health concern seems to have dropped down over recent months. And it does seem that those two big issues of immigration and the economy are those overriding concerns of the British public. Clearly, Andy Burnham wanting to deal with those economic fears that many people in the country have. Christopher Hope, our political editor, is with me here on the street. An interesting priority for Andy Burnham, but one that could pay electoral dividends.
Well, that's right, yes, we'll see how it plays out. He's saying there to this group of cabinet ministers he wants to lead a cost of living government. We'll see how that plays out. The problem he's got is he's announcing cost of living measures, but they're not funded, Tom. I mean, today's one was dramatic. It was a Brexit bonus, a dividend by this government, 5% off VAT of household energy bills, £45 a year. That's a great deal to many people, and yet this would have been paid for by scrapping the ID card scheme. But Darren Jones, who was in charge of it, said it wasn't funded. So how can he say he's going to fund these things properly when he's not?
And this is a real risk that this government has. If they announce lots of goodies for the public, but they're not funded, then that would mean that there's more borrowing from number 11 Downing Street, and more borrowing means that there's more money sloshing around the economy, chasing the same number of goods and services. We all know what that means. That's inflation. And inflation is the most pernicious cost of living measure, anti-cost of living measure.
And the cost of living and the cost of borrowing rises on the markets. That's why everyone's paying so closely to those gilt yields. If they're going up, we become more of an economic risk for these big financiers. It all goes back to the original sin, I think, was when we spent £500 billion as a country in 3 years on the COVID pandemic and the Ukraine war, and we put all of that on the overdraft. The Tories did that. They were going to try and cut spending to pay for it. They didn't get in. Labour supported it. They're going to use the process of growth and never came. We're now stuck with a massive overdraft.
Well, there's some fascinating analysis by the tax expert Dan Needle, who was looking at the amount of money that various different countries, lots of different countries, massively increased spending during COVID, but most of them then reduced spending after COVID back to where it was before. Britain is almost unique in the world, in the developed world, as having increased spending during COVID, and we've only reduced it to about half of what that increase was. So we're 50% of that increase still remains on the balance books, and you can see this in things like the welfare bill, which is so much higher than it was before COVID. Other countries have been able to get those bills down. Britain has been stubbornly stuck spending much more money.
And Tom, that takes political will to deal with it. And really, the only government which can deal with the welfare issue and carry the public with it is a Labour government. That's what's so depressing when the Starmer government couldn't go ahead by not increasing benefits by £5 billion, a tiny fraction of that number. But Andy Burnham is saying this is a cost of living government. We've got a clip of him saying that in Cabinet. Let's hear what he had to say.
We need to be a cost of living government, and getting that cost of living down and looking at all possible ways of doing that. I talked yesterday outside in Downing Street about bringing back hope, and that's got to be us, isn't it?
Well, it does have all those sort of harbingers of Boris Johnson becoming Prime Minister, mid-term, announcing a bunch of populist policies, and of course that led to an election, but I don't think we're quite there here yet.
Well, I think we might be. I mean, I think I saw a hint yesterday in what the PM said about a 10-year governing plan set out in the autumn. 10 years is 2 groups of 5 years, which is a parliament. That's as long as you're elected for. That suggests to me he's hinting at possibly going to the country in October. That's not what Labour MPs want. Melanie On, who's a member of the National Executive Committee of Labour MPs, she told us on GBNews on your show last Friday, we don't want an election. Jonathan Reynolds, at the time the Chief Whip, he said people are tired of elections. Brendan from Bristol, everyone is tired of elections, but you need elections to get the mandate to make the change you want to make. This government is tired. It can't really raise too much money elsewhere outside of the strict confines of their manifesto.
And yet, that manifesto won a massive victory because it said we're not going to raise your taxes. If Andy Burnham calls an election so that he can be given permission to raise everyone's taxes, maybe he doesn't win that election.
But without relitigating that election campaign, Labour were being greedy. They would have won the election, really, whatever they did. They would have a smaller majority, but more room for manoeuvre. Instead, they went for the maximum majority, and they've boxed themselves into a corner where they can't do much.
I think this has been the original sin of every government since 2017, really. 2017, Theresa May had this mammoth manifesto printed, which had in exquisite detail policy fixes for everything from social care to tax rates to NHS spending, everything in so much detail so that she could get everything done in what she hoped would be her majority government. Of course, that tanked her victory. And yet, the next general election, 2019, the Conservatives put forward the thinnest of thin gruel manifestos. Very little detail in it, very little detail on migration, very little detail on health spending and all the rest of it, which actually meant that governing became harder. Because when the small boats came along, they didn't have something to point to in the manifesto to railroad a plan like Rwanda through the House of Lords. Because if something's in your manifesto, you can force it through the House of Lords. If it's not, the House of Lords has every right to say, look, people didn't vote for this, we're not going to back this, we're an unelected chamber, sure, but you didn't say this to the electorate, therefore we can stop it. The more detailed a manifesto is, the easier time a government has. But for the last two parliaments, it's been a sort of similar problem. Very, very thin manifestos to get elected in the first place, then once they're elected, they'll find it very difficult to govern.
But Tom, away from manifestos, what this government is going to do is deal, they say, with the cost of living crisis, but that, of course, was what Keir Starmer was trying to do, and he fell apart. So we've got this comms guy in charge, Andy Burnham, take that pressure off people's shoulders, he told Cabinet just now. He also said to give them that little extra sense that the help is coming, that they can have that bit of hope that things are getting better. Well, it's all very well saying that, but where's the proof of that? That's the concern.
Well, I mean, this is where we're standing right now, Emily. We're still waiting for the Cabinet Ministers to leave the building behind us. We understand that the Cabinet meeting is wrapping up, so we should see some of these. Oh, the door is actually opening as I speak. Who's popping out here? No one of note. That's actually probably quite rude too. It's probably
someone of note, Tom. It's not in government.
Not a cabinet minister. Anyway, Emily, we are still waiting on the streets for those ministers to appear.
OK, well, we're very much going to stay with you, so don't you worry. But Tom and Chris, whoever wants to take this question, what does a cost of living government actually mean? Does this mean cutting taxes so people have more money in their pockets, or does it mean more taxes on people who get up in the morning and go out to work in order to redistribute?
Well, I think having talked to the Prime Minister yesterday in the garden of Number 10, shortly after he became Prime Minister, he talked then about the key issue that was raised on the steps in the Makerfield by-election was unfreezing this tax-free personal allowance. So basically, if you earn money, you're not taxed on anything below £12,570. Everything above that, you start to pay tax on in increasing amounts until you're paying 45p if you're very, very well off. He says that was a single issue which came up in Makerfield, the idea of unfreezing that threshold. It's been frozen since 2021, Tom, and it's unfrozen in 2031. And of course, freezing it means what we call fiscal drag, which means that as pay goes up through inflation, or if you get paid more through inflation, you're caught by these frozen tax thresholds. And he said that pensioners are now paying for it. That isn't fair. So I think that is one area we could see at the budget. Other areas too, maybe the cap on bus fares could be brought back, the £2 cap, which the Tories did so well with.
Yeah, and the difficulty there, though, is that when it comes to these big, expensive measures that have already been placed in, I mean, Rachel Reeves put this freeze in, and at the time was described as a stealth tax. The idea that it would be stealthy, that no one would notice it. But the fact that it came up on these doorsteps in Makerfield perhaps means that what the media jargon of stealth tax has been for the last 20 or so years, perhaps it's no longer quite so stealthy.
But it also might be self-employed people.
We've got some ideas.
There might also be self-employed people who are very worried as well because there are tax changes coming their way. But we've also heard rumour about wealth taxes, haven't we? We've also heard rumour about changes to property taxes. We've also heard that the Prime Minister may be considering changes to inheritance taxes, otherwise known as death taxes. I mean, there's a lot he could do when it comes to tax that he hasn't told us yet.
Well, wait and see how that plays out with entrepreneurs. And we raised that with Dale Vince, the eco-electricity millionaire, big Labour donor, just a few steps away from where we are now, yesterday on GB News. And he said, well, CGT, if you increase that, that's not really a wealth tax, that's a tax on income in a different form, which I'm sure Tom would want to debate that with him were he here. But yeah, I mean, they are looking at different ways of treating wealth. The problem is it will put off wealth creators. It may stifle house sales and business sales, Tom.
Well, absolutely, and there are lots of different elements there, but there is also a proposal from people around Andy Burnham to change stamp duty, which currently does act as this big drag on people selling their homes, buying new homes.
Or downscaling.
If indeed it was swapped into an annual property tax rather than one big lump sum at the moment of sale, that could lubricate the housing market a little bit. There is, however, another thing, which is the idea of inheritance tax, which has been almost no-go in politics since George Osborne proposed abolishing it in 2007, I think it was. It could be that this becomes a real touchstone issue around the issue of social care. Because, as we know, people who have to pay for their family's social care, Andy Burnham himself, his father has Alzheimer's, it's an issue close to his heart. People see their inheritances sort of whittled away, and other people don't. If there were to be some form of significant reform to the way that social care is funded in this country, that could come with a package of inheritance tax with it as well, some kind of rebalancing of that across the economy, which could be deeply controversial. It was controversial when Theresa May proposed a reform to social care funding. It was called the dementia tax by Jeremy Corbyn, and it was sunk in that famous 2017 manifesto. But ultimately, I mean, there will have to be money raised for this big reform that Andy Burnham says he wants to spend political capital on. Could he be coming for inheritance tax?
Well, possibly. He said yesterday that Louise Casey, who was appointed by Keir Starmer to review this issue of social care, she's going to carry on that work. He told us he's ready to use some of that political capital. I'll be blunt with you, he said yesterday in the Garden to some of us journalists. I wouldn't want to leave office having done what Westminster has done, not just for 15 years, but I think we're getting to look at 30 years since there was a Royal Commission into this area, Emily. So that is definitely an area he wants to focus on, but it will be costly.
It certainly will be. Well, Emily, it does seem that this cabinet, because they all came from the same side of the Labour Party, those who supported Andy Burnham, they're getting on like a house on fire inside the building behind me. They don't want to leave. We haven't seen a single cabinet minister leave, and we were told that they might be coming in the last couple of minutes. But clearly they're getting on very, very well. Whether everyone in the Labour Party is getting on well, given all of those sackings yesterday, well, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, it's all fun and games until the questions start coming and the decisions have to be made. Tom Harwood and Christopher Hope will be back with you in just a moment. And no conversation at all about immigration, which is the #1 issue for many of you, for many of the public as well at large. Will he start talking about that? Will he start talking about how he's going to stop the illegal migration crisis and clamp down on that? We wait to see. This is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up. Yes, tributes from around the world pour in for King Kev. Yes, that's Kevin Keegan, the former England player and manager who has sadly died, aged 75. We were in search of some holiday sun. Here is the forecast.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
Heavy rain will affect parts of Bulgaria and thunderstorms will pop up in a few places in Italy on Wednesday, but otherwise it's dry and sunny for many parts of Europe at the moment. Breezy once again for the Canaries and for Madeira. Iberia, light winds, temperatures inland up to the high 30s, widespread sunny skies. Here are those showers popping up across Italy. There's area of rain moving through parts of Greece into Bulgaria, where it will be particularly heavy before drying up later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations forecast.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
Olympian Sharon Davies. Sharon, thanks so much for joining us this morning. I think this is preposterous that we're banning Sports Day for kids, and our viewers are obviously also thinking this is completely bonkers. But is there a case to be made that perhaps we should be looking after young people when the heat is quite extreme in many people's cases, they'll say? What do you think, Sharon?
I think looking after our kids is making them resilient and giving them a sports day. I mean, sport in schools has been relegated year on year on year, and it's so depressing. You know, it's such an important part of young people's lives. Give them a hat, give them some sunscreen, make sure they're drinking plenty of water, stick them in the shade when they're not, actually having a little race. This is all about just kids getting used to life, and wrapping them in cotton wool is not the answer.
The People's Channel. Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
So you go along to the car showroom and only like 10% at most, maybe 15 pay cash. The rest buy on some form of financing. And you often buy, it's a bit like a mortgage, and it's like buying a mortgage from the estate agent, which we all know is a terribly bad idea. Yeah. But this is what people did. And the scandal is, the guys in the showroom were acting as dealers and brokers, and they were in many cases inflating the interest rate that you paid so that they could get bigger commission. And they didn't declare that. So you basically ended up paying more for your car than you would otherwise have done if you'd gone into the open market and found yourself, a better deal.
How did that come to light?
Well, over many years. I mean, this has been going on since 2007.
OK, it's 1:49 and this is Wes Streeting. Now we're on number 10 Downing Street, heading out of that first Cabinet meeting. Tom Harwood and Christopher Hope are there for us. So this Cabinet meeting has wrapped up, the first of Andy Burnham's.
I was just making a quick joke there, Emily, that perhaps Wes Streeting wanted to be first out that door because there are very few allies of his sat around that table. They're all Burnhamites around that table. And Wes Streeting, of course, got that job because he was going to launch a leadership campaign himself. He was given that job as a bit of a sop. But frankly, everyone around that table is pretty on the Burnham bus. Wes Streeting might be a bit left out there, and I don't know, maybe that's a bit mean to say that's why he left first.
But he's got the most complicated security detail as the Defence Secretary. Maybe that's why he left early. But the meeting is now broken up. But yes, Defence Secretary, him resigning and then saying he supports Andy Burnham very rapidly really led to the coronation of Andy Burnham. Yes. I think he would be disappointed with what he got from the reshuffle. I think he wanted more than the Defence Secretary. A very difficult job. It's already $5 billion short, even in the slimmed down Defence Investment Plan. Although he has got support now in the Treasury from the new Chancellor John Healey.
Andy Burnham could argue that actually it's going to be a more important job in government than it has been at any point in the last 20 years. It's going to have more money than at any point in the last 20 years. We're all thinking much more about this turbulent world we live in, about the defence of our realm. It might well be a much more forward, a media-forward position than perhaps it would have been in decades past.
Yes, that's right. Well, we'll see how that plays out. But of course, defence is one priority. It's always a priority for any government, increasingly so, but of course cost of living too. This is the cost of living government. We are told they're going to set out how they're going to pay for things. Well, already that's been blown up and shown to be slightly farcical, frankly. They announced plans to cut money off bills, ditching VAT on energy bills, but they can't. The way they're going to pay for it isn't actually there, according to Darren Jones.
Yeah, it's slightly confusing because the government insists that it is funded because this is money that would have had to be found for digital ID. It's just that the money hadn't been found yet. So it's almost a two-stage process where, OK, at the last budget they said that they would need to find, was it 1.6 billion over the course of 3 years. It's just they haven't found that money. They promised they were going to find the money, but they haven't found it yet. So, I mean, you do get the argument from both sides there.
So I suppose it relies on future savings. So he should say, we're going to cut money and we'll find it, and here's the money that was allocated but hadn't been spent yet for ID cards.
The problem is every single government says we're going to find efficiency savings across the government departments. It's always very easy to announce, oh yes, we'll just cut 5% off a budget here. But then we have to actually decide what is going to be cut in order to find that money. Then it becomes much more difficult. And whilst a minister sitting in the Treasury can just say efficiency efficiency savings. The ministers that then actually have to go through line by line their departments and decide what they're not going to do anymore, or how many people they're going to sack, or what provisions they're no longer going to provide, that's an entirely different matter.
Yes. We haven't yet reflected on what may happen tomorrow in the House of Lords, which you may want to before they come out. The Tories are pushing a vote this afternoon in the Lords to force Angela Smith, who's the only person appointed leader of the House of Lords so far, the stand-in for the Prime Minister in the House of Lords, to answer questions about all sorts of areas from the Burnham government. It
a bit of a Prime Minister's questions, but in the Lords.
Yes, exactly. So you may want to sort of reform your programme, PMQ's Live for Lords questions, and answer the questions and see what happens next. But
Leader of the Lords Live, LOL, live.
LOL is a good way of describing it. A lot of government nowadays. Let's see if they can be more serious than LOL, but certainly. But yeah, Angela Smith may have to be answering questions on behalf of all Lords because there's no scrutiny in Parliament. I know you seem relaxed about that because Boris Johnson did it, but I personally...
Well, Boris Johnson at least had one day of scrutiny before the long summer recess.
I think it's pretty poor. I think we should have MPs grilling and questioning this government of what they're doing. Lindsay Hoyle is in America. He's been in Congress overnight, I think, so he may come back to this next week.
And of course, during Boris Johnson's time, that long summer where he announced all those things and then tried to prorogue Parliament, it was very much the executive versus the legislature.
Yeah.
It was a hung Parliament. The government thought one thing, Parliament largely thought another, particularly on Brexit, and so there was that animosity. I mean, this government has a massive majority. Why is it afraid of coming to Parliament and answering some questions? It's not going to lose votes unless it thinks it is. I mean, it has a majority of 160 MPs. Yeah. Why is it afraid of Parliament? It's astonishing.
You'd have thought there would be the 80 who could rebel would now rally around the cause of Andy Burnham, but of course there's now the Starmerites are now on the back benches.
The awkward squad.
Yes, they are. I mean, yes, Darren Jones. They all know where the bodies are buried in Whitehall. Steve Reid, upset about the plotting against their friends.
Steve Reid's letter yesterday, I don't know if we've discussed it, it was pretty excoriating. It had this line right towards the end of it where it said, I have always tried to be loyal to the outgoing Prime Minister. I can only hope that those who were not loyal to the last one will be loyal to this one.
Yeah, and he would reasonably say that the language coming out of the Cabinet now from Andy Burnham is exactly what Keir Starmer said. We need to be a cost of living government is the top line, getting that cost of living down, looking at all possible ways of doing that. It's exactly what we heard from Keir Starmer over the past 2 years, and he failed to do it.
Although he probably failed to communicate that as well, because ultimately what everyone remembers Keir Starmer doing is raising taxes and cutting things like the winter fuel allowance. I mean, those were sort of some of the biggest early notes. Yeah. I mean, whatever happens over the course of the next 6 months, the fact that in this first full day of the Burnham ministry, the fact that the first things he's done have been on the other side of the ledger, on the sort of let's give people money or cut people's taxes in a limited and specific way, that will be remembered. First impressions matter.
Yes, they do. I wonder we might see a review of the introductory rate of income tax. I think that, why can't you, if I earn more, why should I be giving more to the government? That is what many people on lower incomes particularly feel if they're facing these tax bills they never used to have, and that's what fiscal drag is showing us.
And yet this is the problem. The government is spending more than it has ever spent before. It is having, outside of crisis like COVID, it is having this amazing effect on tax rises, but ultimately if Andy Burnham wants to stop the fiscal drag effect, if he wants to stop those tax rates effectively raising on people as they have done every single year, well then he needs to cut spending. I mean, it's a very simple equation. Either you raise taxes to meet your new spending level, or you reduce your spending level so that you can reduce your taxes. Yeah. The only other way that someone would argue is economic growth, but we've seen precious little evidence of that in this country.
We're hearing now that on the very issue of this VAT of energy bills, which has been questioned by Darren Jones, no less, the former Chief Secretary of the Prime Minister, a Lords Minister will now answer for that policy on Thursday in the House of Lords. So the Lords are getting more antsy now. They're going to start to use their influence as being the only part of our Parliament sitting while this new government is in post.
Yeah, and of course the Labour Party doesn't have a majority in the House House of Lords, even though I think a huge number, is it almost 100 Lords have been appointed by Keir Starmer? I mean, just an extraordinary engorgement of the Labour benches, but still not a majority in that chamber. There's all the Lib Dems, all the crossbenchers, all the Tories, who could probably make the life of the Labour Party fairly difficult on this issue.
And crossbenchers hold the balance of power, of course, in the Lords. He's also told Andy Burnham in the meeting just happened in the Cabinet, he wants them all to find money from all departments to fund his cost of living pledges. They must make difficult decisions, the Prime Minister says, in coming months. We've been here before. It sets the scene for clashes between departments and Treasury in the months to come. He says this: in these times in which we're living, we have to have a really hard look at what our priorities are, and that's why he's got rid, of course, of the voluntary digital ID. That's gone. What other schemes might be cut, and how much will that generate?
I mean, frankly, is there much room to cut before you start actually assessing what it is the government should be doing? Does the government actually retreat out of some areas? But it's very unlikely that an an Andy Burnham ministry with people like Ed Miliband advising him and Miata Fahnbulleh and these people that have come very much from the left tradition of politics, they've been his closest advisors over the course of the last 6 months. This is not going to be a government that can make these serious cuts, surely.
No, and indeed, Burnham goes on, we've got to show fiscal discipline, we've got to show that our commitment to the fiscal rules is real, Tom. Now, that'll make you smile, maybe, and we're prepared to make these difficult decisions in relation to that. Now, for those fiscal rules, fiscal discipline, that's what the markets are watching, isn't it?
They want that current budget to be falling over the next 3 years of the forecast. That's one of those fiscal rules. You can ask me about the other ones. I think I can remember them. Anyway, Emily, back to you.
OK, thank you, Tom. And Chris will be back with you very shortly indeed. So, yes, he's prepared to make difficult decisions. He's going to be boldly Labour, but prudently Labour as well. So does that mean he might actually tackle our ballooning benefits bill? Might that mean that he tries and chops down the cost that we spend on our asylum processes? Is he going to say, you know what, we're not going to increase foreign aid at this moment when we have a lot of Brits suffering with the cost of living and everything else? There's a lot there. There's a lot there. A cost of living government. What does that actually mean? I fear that it means more taxes on those who work and dare to have an asset or two. And what does it actually mean? Will there just be more spending, ballooning benefits bill? I think all of us just want an economy at this stage that works for us, where there are opportunities for young people. Do you know the number of people who are coming out of school, coming out of university, looking at the job market right now and thinking, where on earth am I going to find a job? Well, we are coming up to the next hour. The Cabinet meeting is now finishing. It is now midday. Good afternoon, Britain. It is now 2 o'clock, sorry. It's 2 o'clock on Tuesday, the 21st of July.
Yes, good afternoon, Britain. Live from Downing Street on this historic first full day of the Burnham ministry, I'm Tom Harwood.
And I'm Emily Carver.
We need to be a cost of living government, and getting that cost of living down and looking at all possible ways of doing that.
Yes, we need to be a cost of living government, pledges the new Prime Minister. That's as he hosts his first Cabinet meeting in his new role. But where's all the money coming from? Any UK politician who gave Trump the time of day should be ashamed. Yes, those are the words of Andy Burnham, but back in 2021, just hours after he entered number 10, Andy Burnham invited the US president to Manchester. Yes, for the G20 summit. He's changed his tune.
Now, I will soon go through that door behind me and issue my first instruction to end rough sleeping in our country.
Yes, Mr Burnham wants to end rough sleeping around the country, but in Manchester, what has he done? He failed spectacularly to keep a promise to get homeless people off the streets there. I'll share the figures with you later on. And tributes continue to flood in from around the world for King Kevin Keegan, the former England player and manager, who sadly died aged 75. OK, 1 minute past 2 is the time. And yes, it's a big day. It's the first full day that Andy Burnham is our new Prime Minister. So let's head over to number 10 Downing Street, where Tom Harwood, our deputy political editor and co-host of this show, of course, is. And our political editor, Christopher Hope, is also there after his 14-hour stint yesterday. I think Christopher Hope deserves some kind of medal for that. You were still going at 11 o'clock. I was thinking, get this man to bed.
Oh, we've got Lisa Nandy just leaving there now. She, of course, got a promotion, I think, yesterday, didn't she?
Yes, she's staying in her department.
Right.
We thought she was going to be made some big role in it. Devolution never happened.
Yes.
The only medal I need, Emily, is my GBNews lapel badge, which Tom wears with pride too. That's the medal we have for serving our viewers. But yeah, they're breaking up now. Lisa Nandy first out.
Lisa Nandy, next door MP to Makerfield. She's the MP for Wigan.
Yep.
So keeping it in the close, tight-knit Manchester region there for a lot of these senior posts.
That's right. And we've seen, of course, we've already seen Wes Streeting. These ministers, well, we note from our breakfast show this morning, we haven't yet had a minister on from this new government after Jonathan Reynolds didn't come on, and which is we are trying to speak to ministers today, and we'll bring those clips to you as soon as we get them in. But that's a concern, isn't it? We want to get them more on GB News.
Certainly, especially as we know that some of our best regions for viewership are places like the wider Manchester. We once did a special, a breakfast special week, I think, all week from Manchester. Andy Burnham even came on when we did that special because the Northwest was our strongest region, at least in that year. Of course, we've grown our audience since then. Anyway, enough introspection from us.
Yes, it does matter though, coming on GB News, and the audience we speak to would benefit from this 5% cut in VAT of household bills. We want to interrogate that idea, and that's why we need to speak to them.
You'd think if they really believe in what they're doing, they'd want to sell it, wouldn't they?
And that's why they're not.
It reads into that question as well as to
Angela Rayner, the Housing Secretary, with Matthew Pennicook.
Is it good to be back, Angela Rayner?
You can see the rose tattoo on her heel there. That's obviously a Labour rose. And then we have Lucy Powell and Pat McFadden.
Oh, and we've got
Shabana Mahmood and Cooper leaving, the Health Secretary and Home Secretary.
Both wearing blue. Is that a sort of... are they reaching out across the aisle to the Tory vote? I mean, who
NHS
knows?
Blue, you called it on before.
NHS Blue. I'm not sure what it is with regards to the Home Office. It's English Channel Blue. I'm not sure. Yeah, it really does seem like this cabinet meeting is well and truly over now. But I wonder if there was that same sense of camaraderie around the table, given the brutal bloodbath yesterday. 11 cabinet sackings, more than anyone was expecting. Really, we thought that there'd be at least a few Sarmarites given the sop to sit around that table in the hope of fostering party unity. No such offer was made.
Well, that's right. It did seem far more brutal than we thought. There's Chris Bryant, of course,
the new Northern Ireland Secretary.
That's right.
Which is, I think, his first full cabinet job.
Yes, it was. He's always been a Minister of State, so one below cabinet level. Of course, he's Sir Chris Bryant, and quite an historian of
parliamentary procedure and all the rest of it.
Yes, exactly. Now, more coming now, Tom. Let's see. Angela Smith. Now, she's the leader of the Lords. Will you answer questions tomorrow from the Tories, Angela Smith? Now, she could be the person we focus on tomorrow in Tom's new programme called LOL. The leader of the House of Lords answers questions. But no, seriously, the House of Lords sits till Thursday, and they will be under pressure to answer questions about this new government.
Well, it's going to be the only part of Parliament that is able to provide that democratic scrutiny of the government's new plans. And it does sound like there are already those fiscal announcements. The Speaker of the House of Commons is going to be irritated that they've been announced during recess. So that could sort of stir up some animosity in the months ahead.
And concerns from the Tories saying we need to scrutinise what's going on. I think that's reasonable to ask those questions. And that what would be happening right now, there'd be an urgent question now or in Parliament, and the Tories will be saying, how are you going to pay for this VAT cut? The money isn't there. Darren Jones says so.
Yeah, and I suppose all the government can say is efficiency savings. But this is the thing, it's almost a moot point when a government says, oh, we're going to save this through efficiency savings, unless they spell out what those efficiency savings actually are.
Yeah, now they will be sent away, these cabinet ministers, into their departments, Tom, to find those savings in their departments. We heard that request from the Prime Minister, find money you can save and give that back to our supporters. voters, people on low incomes. That's what he's told them to do.
It's funny, actually, that we're talking about this sort of...
There is a chancellor coming out now. That's John Healey. How will you find the VAT cut money, John Healey?
Are you going to find billions more for defence, John Healey?
How will you fill your own black hole? John Healey, of course, Chancellor, he's created the black hole that wasn't there yesterday by funding or announcing a 5% cut-off on energy bills with no way to pay for it, Tom.
But also, there are the bigger black holes. I mean, the $5 billion that is not funded in the Defence Investment Plan as it stands.
Are you happy with your job, Bridget?
Is it a demotion, Bridget Phillipson?
Bridget Phillipson, the Women's Minister, lost her role doing education, smiling away, gritted teeth, a wintry smile on a hot summer's day.
Perhaps gritted teeth there. I mean, she has gone from being a full-ranking member of Cabinet to a Minister of State who attends Cabinet. Might not sound like the biggest difference, but it is a step down in that rung.
To them, let me tell you.
Yeah.
I mean, we can think it's just job titles.
I think it's actually paid slightly less as well.
It would be, actually. Yes, it would be.
So that's the mechanics of this stuff. So some of these people are getting pay cuts. I mean, actually, a lot of people lost their jobs yesterday as well, whether it's special advisors or those sort of lower rungs. I mean, it's the brutal reality of government. People who thought that they'd be here for 5 years were only here for 2.
It's a funny world, isn't it, out there? And it can be so fickle depending on who's in, who's out. I wonder whether we might hear more from the PM spokesman later on this tax-free personal allowance, this review of that £12,570 level at which you start paying income tax, frozen for 10 years, and people in Makerfield, the Makerfield test, if you like, they are cross with this figure.
We are talking about this being a cost of living government. We're talking about how generous Andy Burnham has decided to be with regards to VAT on electricity bills for a time-limited period. And yet, isn't it strange, we're not talking so much about all of the cuts that Andy Burnham has just committed his ministers to go and find, because it's an equal and opposite story. This has just been a cabinet meeting where everyone in there wants us to be talking, isn't it good? They're taking money off people's energy bills. But actually, equally and oppositely, Andy Burnham has just told, as you were saying, each and every one of those ministers to march off into their Whitehall departments and make cuts. I mean, to the same extent, we could be talking about Andy Burnham's demands to cut government services in order to fund this VAT cut.
And he wants those cuts to be funded. He's told the meeting inside that building, show how we're going to pay for things. Make clear, he says, we'll seek out to do more in coming days, but always show how we're going to pay for it. And that's what's so important. Clearly, they feel the government can't announce things with no idea how they're going to pay for it. But that's just what's happened. With this cutting a scheme which wasn't funded. But as you said, they would have found money from somewhere. So perhaps
they'd have to within this funding envelope. But I mean, they might have. I mean, they would have got out of the bind by just cancelling the digital ID and not spending the pretend money on something else because the money didn't exist. We're getting into the weeds here, but ultimately, when Andy Burnham says everything will have to be funded, we're automatically thinking, oh, what are they going to cut in order to fund this? Equally and oppositely, he could actually be talking about which taxes are we going to raise to fund this particular element of spending.
That could be capital gains tax, it could be a wealth tax, it could bring down the mansion tax that Rachel Reeves has committed
to. A land value tax, something that Jeremy Corbyn proposed in 2019 and the Tories campaigned against as a garden tax.
Now, earlier, before you came on, Tom, we committed to asking ministers why they won't come on GB News more. We sent Will Godley, the terrier-like reporter for GB News, to ask the ministers some questions. Here's what he found out.
Congratulations on your new role in government, Mr. Powell. Can I ask you if you're committed to come on GB News? Will you come on GB News, Minister?
What concrete steps are your government taking against...
No, if you'll come on GB News. Is there a recommitment from government ministers to come on GB News?
Of our viewers and listeners, because of course Jonathan Reynolds, the business secretary, refused to come on the channel today. I should say the very last person he spoke to, Pat McFadden, has always come on GB News, even when in opposition, Tom. So of all the people, he is a real defender of the channel.
Yes, well, let's hope that they continue. Oh, and there's Douglas Alexander,
Scottish Minister, Scottish Secretary, Douglas Alexander.
But I think it is a bad start if this government doesn't. It finds time for some of our colleagues in the press who are with us here on this street today, but haven't found time for GB News. What does that say about this government?
Well, it says they don't want to talk to our viewers, and that is deeply offensive to me. I mean, it's particularly looking at what they're announcing. A 5% cut of energy bills will particularly help, I think, people who watch GB News, people at home maybe a lot of the time, they are worrying about the heat bills. Why can't they have that explained to them by the government? Why are they ignoring our growing audience? We are Britain's #1 news channel. I mean, it is. I think they should spend more time with our viewers, frankly.
Yeah, well, let's hope that they reassess that particular decision, because ultimately they are building a narrative, they're building a story to sell, and this will be across the summer. We're expecting Andy Burnham not just to be staying in number 10, far from it, expecting a tour of the regions and nations over the course of the summer.
Yes, he must go this week. This week he must go to Scotland, he must go to Wales, and he must go to Northern Ireland. He knows that. He's Minister for the United Kingdom. One of the jobs that the PM always used to have was Minister for the Union. It's not on the door, but it's a job you have to bind together the four nations of our United Kingdom, and that's why he must get out and about this week. I expect Scotland tomorrow, Wales and then Northern Ireland and so forth. He will have to go out and travel around the country, and then we're expecting a tour around coastal parts of the country, forgotten parts of England, for example. The Burnham-on-Sea, it's being dubbed in weekend newspapers.
Yes.
To get to places where they aren't being heard and listening to them. He calls it his Greg's task, listening to what people talk about in Greg's and make that your priority. It's a different way of doing government.
A different way of doing government. If we are to believe a poll visualised in The Economist magazine this week, the place in the country that is least favourable to Burnham is Essex.
Yeah.
So the question is, will he dare visit Essex and speak to Essex man or woman, given that is the area of the country that seems like it's the least on board
I would say he's absolutely got to. I would say anywhere he feels he's not strong in, now is the moment to go there, because every single day popularity will be leaching away from him like water in the sand.
Do you think this is the high watermark of Burnham?
Yes, I do.
According to More in Common, and a poll out last week, his net approval rating in the country is +3. It sounds low, but for a politician, that is remarkably high.
It's quite rare it improves during a prime ministerial term. It did with Boris Johnson because of the vaccine bounce and in his time in office, and then fell away very rapidly from that. So there could be things happening in the future. We don't know what they are. Will have tests very soon, I think, with Iran. Will he allow UK bases to be used by US jets to bomb Iran and Diego Garcia, notably, others too, in other parts of the world? That's a real test for him. The phone call happened yesterday. Oil and gas was mentioned, drilling in the North Sea, according to the White House readout, not according to the readout given to us by number 10.
Which is a really interesting issue to drill down on, to pardon the pun. Donald Trump seems convinced that Andy Burnham will increase drilling in the North Sea. There were protesters at the end of Downing Street yesterday, very, very angry at proposals that might increase drilling. Andy Burnham not really committing to anything publicly on this. Could it be a fudge?
Well, it could be a fudge, because all they're doing so far is announce they're going to do tiebacks to existing fields, which means drill for oil and gas near existing fields. That's exactly Keir Starmer's policy. No new licences is the clear message in the manifesto. If he wants to avoid that, he'll have to have an election, Tom.
Goodness me. Well, that's it from us on Downing Street so far. Lots happening here as this new government gets underway.
Well, absolutely do keep us up to date this afternoon as we find out more about what Andy Burnham's actually going to do in the job. What direction is he going to take? Now, in the meantime, we have some breaking news to bring you. Yes, Anne Widdecombe was bludgeoned to death, according to prosecutors, and as a man accused of her murder made his first court appearance, now warning that this report might contain content that viewers and listeners find distressing. We're joined in the studio by our Home and Security Editor, Mark White, for more detail on this. Mark, we're hearing more about what actually happened to Anne.
Emily, it is deeply distressing. It's the first court appearance of 28-year-old Joshua Carey, who has been charged with the murder of Anne Widdecombe. Prosecutors have been outlining the case at this first magistrates' court hearing. We've been hearing from Kashif Malik, the prosecutor, saying to the magistrate at Westminster Magistrates Court that Anne Widdecombe died as a result of blunt force trauma, according to a preliminary post-mortem, that she was bludgeoned to death in her home, struck 21 times, we're told, on the head with a hammer. An absolutely awful, awful way to die. And this suspect has appeared in court number 1 in the dock at Westminster Magistrates Court. Of course, as is customary, he spoke only to confirm his name, his date of birth and his home address in Rotherham. Now, the police were told that Anne Widdecombe had died on July the 8th, around about lunchtime on that day. She had appeared on television during that day, television and radio. She was due to appear again in a broadcast interview later that day, but didn't. And her body was discovered the following day on the 9th of July. Now, this suspect, Joshua Carey, was arrested at his home address in Rotherham on the Saturday in the evening, around about 9 o'clock in the evening, in an operation involving counter-terrorism officers. Well, he is facing 1 count of murder. He has been remanded back into custody. We're told that he will appear at the Central Criminal Court in London, the Old Bailey, this afternoon, Emily.
Well, some shocking details coming to light there. Thank you very much indeed, Mark White, and apologies if some of that was distressing, of course. Mark White there, our Home and Security Editor, bringing us the latest on the Widdecombe murder charge. Well, in other news, back to the Cabinet. A big day for our new Prime Minister. Yes, his full day, his first full day as Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. Yes, after he won that by-election that was somewhat manufactured, well, totally manufactured. No leadership contest, no general election. But hey, Andy Burnham is our new Prime Minister, and he's chosen Wes Streeting, the former Health Secretary, to be his Defence Secretary. Now, some people are scratching their heads thinking, why? Lord Dannatt, the former head of the British Army, has said, and I quote, he knows the square root of nothing about defence. Is that a concern? Well, we're joined by the director of the IRGC Research, United Against Nuclear Iran, Qasser Arabi. I mean, there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot of reasons why Britain needs to have strong defences. Is Wes Streeting the man?
Well, we're living in an increasingly hostile world, and we need a defence minister and a foreign secretary that is unapologetic about defending our interests and values abroad, and more importantly, is respected by our allies and feared by our enemies. And that's someone Streeting is the opposite of that. Miliband is the opposite of that. If you look at Miliband's track record on foreign policy, for example, it's truly appalling. He's someone who has undermined Britain's interests abroad, undermined the special relationship with the United States, consistently, by the way, including under President Obama. He blocked British intervention against Assad in Syria after Assad gassed his own people. That resulted in President Obama's not taking action against Syria, effectively breaking his red line. And consequently, Russia saw that the US and its allies, including us, were not going to meet their red line, consequently invaded Crimea in 2014. Streeting, likewise, has vehemently opposed British support for the United States in the Iran war. He has been extremely critical of our greatest ally, the United States. So if you take a step back and look at this holistically, Miliband and Streeting together, this is not good news for Britain's standing on the global stage. Our role will continue to decline, sadly. The news will be welcome, I suspect, by our enemies. And you see Donald Trump's reaction, you see the United States' reaction. They are also increasingly worried about this.
Well, as you suggest, we haven't perhaps been the best ally to the United States, not allowing them to use our military base, for one, at the beginning of the Iran war. The likes of Ed Miliband, the likes of Wes Streeting, perhaps Keir Starmer too, will say, well, that was the prudent choice. We don't want to be going gung-ho into conflicts around the world. What would you say?
Well, Keir Starmer said, this is not our war. Well, that's not how the Iranian regime sees it. For the past 47 years, it has been at war with Britain. It still has the official state slogan, death to England. It has plotted more than 20 terror attacks on our soil. It has been radicalising British Muslims in Britain. It has been propagating anti-Semitism. And more importantly, it has been striking us during this war. Ed Miliband blocked the US from using our bases. And we see that Miliband and Streeting together are aligned on not supporting the United States against an enemy, by the way, that wants to attack us. So the idea that we shouldn't have got involved, now we could, doesn't necessarily mean we have to get involved militarily. We could politically isolate the Iranian regime, but Streeting and Miliband have not been vocal on that at all. In fact, they've been more vocal about standing up to our greatest ally, the United States, than standing up to a regime that wants to kill us.
Yes, I think they find that easier. It's much easier to stand up to a Western liberal democracy, isn't it, than an authoritarian regime. But Kazra, what does this mean for our relationship with Israel, perhaps? I mean, it's probably too soon to say exactly, but Andy Burnham, one of his first interviews was with Gary Lineker, the host of a podcast. Now, Gary Lineker left the BBC after accusations of anti-Semitism. Andy Burnham accused of not pushing back. Well, he didn't push back on the assertion that Israel is committing a genocide in Gaza. How do you see that playing forward?
Just to your former point, it is actually easy to stand up to our enemies. It should be easier than standing up to our allies. Britain, Starmer's government could have expelled the Iranian ambassador, shut down the embassy, it prescribed the IRGC as a terrorist organization. Now, it's been designated under the new National Security Act, but that's not the same as full terror prescription. And on anti-Semitism, these issues are all linked, by the way. You cannot separate them. Yes, I believe we will be weak on anti-Semitism. We will be extremely critical, unfortunately, against Israel, which is our ally. And we see that Burnham, for example, Miliband and Streeting have been very critical of Israel. Streeting has even claimed that there is a genocide ongoing. Bogus claim there's no evidence for that. Again, it looks as though Labour is shifting more to the left, is going to damage our international standing further by undermining our allies. Our allies, by the way, that are targeting the very terrorist groups, the very entities that want to attack us here in the United Kingdom. So again, for our global standing, unfortunately, it looks like it's going to decline further. This should not be partisan, by the way. We need to bolster our defences, have an unapologetic foreign policy, but under Miliband and Streeting, it's just not possible. They're not being taken seriously.
Well, certainly a concern, and it seems as though the White House is also troubled by the decision. Kazra Arabi, thank you very much indeed for your impassioned comments on that one. We wait to see what Wes Streeting will have to announce. I've got a feeling he might have a lot to read up on before he officially starts his work. Well, let's head back to number 10 to speak to Tom Harwood, our Deputy Political Editor, and of course my co-host here on Good Afternoon Britain. Another busy day at number 10. Andy Burnham got his feet well and truly under the desk. We're also hearing rumours as to where this new number 10 North might be. It seems like it's very much going ahead as well. There are still concerns over Wes Streeting, his role as Defence Secretary. Does he know enough about the subject? Sorry, I put a lot to you there, Tom. Go with what you like.
A huge amount there. Let's start with number 10 North. We have heard where it's going to be. Slap bang in the centre of Manchester, a building that actually is already going on. It's designated as number 10 already today. There are proposals for cabinets, for civil servants rather, to relocate to Manchester, and they're being offered financial incentives to do that, reportedly. So it is all go, go, go on that front. Heron House, I believe, is the name of the building that is being designated temporarily as number 10 North, before a building that is currently being constructed as the digital campus of the government, not due to be completed until 2032. That will eventually become the site of number 10 North. Who have we got there? We've got the AI Minister popping out there, and then there's Stephen Kinnock as well walking out the door there. Late stragglers, really, from the Cabinet meeting. We thought everyone had left.
Is this a new role, Tom, the AI Minister?
Sorry, go on.
Is this a new role, the AI Minister?
No, but it's a role that has now been promoted. So the AI Minister did used to sit under DSIT. Now that's a cabinet department that has been abolished by Andy Burnham. The position has been moved, and now he sits around the cabinet table. Christopher Hope joins me now to discuss
Tom Harwood,
this
we are going to go
Yes,
sorry to interrupt, but Wes Streeting is speaking at some kind of defence conference, so we're going to head there.
Of mutual trust our nations share. Together, we will keep our nation safe, support good jobs, and give our armed forces the kit they need to deter and defend for generations to come. Thank you. Now let me hand over to Shinjiro.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to express my warmest congratulations to the Secretary Streeting on your appointment. I look forward to working with you closely. As you have been to Japan when you were elementary school student, as an exchange student, I look forward to your next visit to Japan. The Global Combat Air Program, GCAP, is a milestone joint development project with Italy and the United Kingdom for a next generation fighter. The program brings together the Indo-Pacific and the Euro-Atlantic located far in the distance from each other. This one-of-a-kind project serves as the basis for connectivity between the two regions and will be a long-lasting foundation for close ties among people, collaboration in technology, as well as cooperation among industries in the decades to come. GCAP is a truly transformative initiative, one that will fundamentally reshape the way the international community approaches security cooperation by enabling a global GCAP community to contribute collectively to our shared security. Earlier, we, the four nations, Japan, Italy, the United Kingdom, and Canada, had a dialogue and made this monumental decision to formally welcome Canada as an observer to the GCAP program. The security of the Indo-Pacific and the Euro-Atlantic is inseparable. And now, at this moment, Chinese and Russian naval vessels are conducting joint navigation operations in the waters surrounding Japan. In the middle of it, a Chinese naval vessel conducted live fire exercises within Japan's EEZ over the weekend. Amid this increasingly severe security environment, it is my great pleasure to join this celebration to announce Canada's observership. It is monumental as Canada is geographically located between the Indo-Pacific and the Euro-Atlantic. I have met and had frank discussions with Defense Minister McGuinty on many occasions, such as in Munich, Tokyo, and Ankara. I am very much encouraged by Canada, which has been enhancing their engagement in the Indo-Pacific in recent years. Canada's participation in the program as an observer will provide great momentum to further strengthen Japan-Canada defense cooperation.
OK, well, there you go. We now know why Wes Streeting left that cabinet meeting in a rush. He was on his way to this defence conference of the Global Compact Air programme, which I know very little about, but I know someone who does know a lot about it, and that is Mark White, our Home and Security Editor. Now, this is an important initiative. This is one of the first, it will be the first time Wes Streeting has stood up as Defence Secretary. Do tell us more.
Yeah, this is the GCAP programme. It's for a sixth-generation fighter that is being built by the United Kingdom in collaboration with two other major nations, Italy and Japan. At the moment, we've just been hearing from the Italian Defence Minister, and then we'll hear also from the Japanese Minister. We can see Wes Streeting there at some point. If Wes Streeting does begin speaking again, we can cross, hopefully, to that and listen to what he said. Now, this is, you know, a very significant programme because it is the next generation of combat aircraft. What is significant today is that Canada is now joining that programme as well, as a sort of, if you like, a junior partner. I think it's observer status they're describing it as. So they will be in there with a view to buying these aircraft when they have come to fruition, when the programme is complete. We're still in the early stages, the developmental stage of these combat aircraft. And so we're still quite a few years off, but it's something that already it's going to sustain 4,500 jobs here in the UK, more potentially if other foreign countries get involved in.
Yeah.
Well, this has been part and parcel, I think, of the way in which Andy Burnham, it seems, wants to justify, obviously he's justifying an investment in defence because of the uncertain times we're in and the need to strengthen our defence. But there is this added bonus of developing programmes like GCAP, which then provide significant numbers of highly skilled jobs here in the UK, both directly and through the defence chain as well. That's something that we're told Andy Burnham seems very keen on. We know that John Healey has been talking to him about the possibility of war bonds, defence bonds, if you like, to help pay as well for some of the investment in defence. Whether that comes to fruition or not, I don't know. It's something that John Healey was quite keen on. But this programme, as I say, it's a sixth-generation fighter. So
is this would be the best that's out there?
It would be the most modern. So at the moment, you've probably heard about the F-35 jet. That's on our aircraft carriers. It's a stealth combat jet that's used as a fighter and bomber. It can take off and land on the aircraft carriers. It's used by the RAF as well as the Royal Navy. And it's a fifth-generation, highly advanced combat jet. Well, this is now looking ahead to the sixth generation, at a point where they are going to rely on much more in the way of AI to help the way in which these aircraft fly. They're going to fly alongside what they call loyal wingmen. Now, what they are drones, effectively, jet fighter drones that are unmanned, that will be controlled in part by these combat jets, the sixth-generation GCAP jets, and they'll fly maybe half a dozen of them, one combat jet and maybe, 5 drones alongside it into a combat scenario. So you're talking very futuristic elements that we're moving into, a transition away from many aircraft being manned aircraft in terms of having pilots.
They look very slick. I wish we had a photo to show you at home because they look very advanced, very futuristic, something out of a sci-fi film.
Yeah.
Definitely. Just your thoughts on Wes Streeting in general, because he's there representing us at this conference in his new role as Defence Secretary. There has been quite a bit of criticism for this appointment because, essentially saying that he doesn't know anything about defence.
Well, I think that's absolutely true.
Anything to add?
Well, I think it's true.
Fair? Can you learn on the job?
Yes. He is a bright guy, and I think he will. And I'm sure maybe putting his leadership ambitions to the side for a little bit, he will be immersed in that world. He will try to deliver for defence. I would say that I'm sure many in defence are, although they might be scratching their head a little as to why Dan Jarvis, ex-military, and appeared to be doing a good job for the last month or so, wasn't kept on in that role. I guess they had to find something for Wes Streeting, given just how he was prepared to step aside and not launch a leadership process against Andy Burnham. That and the fact he maybe didn't get to the required number of
Circumstances dictated that, I think.
But we are where we are. He is now in there. I think many in defence will probably be a lot more glad that it's Wes Streeting rather than Rachel Reeves.
I mean, Lord Dannatt was quite scathing about even the potential for Wes Streeting
and I
to
think
get
he's
this appointment.
100% right.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anybody that would be less suitable for that role.
Although, to be honest, John Healey, as Chancellor of the Exchequer, he's only ever been in politics. Before that, it was trade unions. So there you go.
Yeah.
Perhaps you've got to give the benefit of the doubt, perhaps for a little bit. We'll see. Mark White, thank you very much indeed. Now we've got lots more coming up on today's show. Andy Burnham's first cabinet, yes, wrapping up their first meeting.
Yes, indeed. The cabinet meeting is now over, and we're expecting junior ministerial appointments to take place throughout the course of the rest of the afternoon. Still a lot of government to be built on Andy Burnham's first full day in office. Well, much more to come here live on GB News, Britain's #1 news channel.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We've started the day with a lot of cloud, and some places will keep that cloud for much of the day. Otherwise, the cloud breaking up to give sunny spells and another warm or very warm day for many of us, especially towards the south and the southwest. High pressure still dominating the weather across the UK. It's slipped further west, allowing this cooler northwesterly airflow, and that's responsible for bringing in the cloud from the Atlantic. But the cloud does tend to break and lift with sunny spells developing. Having said that, there is some wildfire smoke in the air, so that will turn the sunshine hazy from time to time and drop temperatures by a degree compared with how they'd be without the wildfire smoke. I think highs of 28 Celsius across parts of East Wales into the southwest. Further north, it's going to feel cooler across Scotland. High teens, low 20s for many, and especially where we've got this cloud continuing, and some light showers for the north and northwest of Scotland. Mostly dry for Northern Ireland. A cloudy day by and large, but towards the south and east, some breaks in the cloud. England and Wales seeing decent sunny spells as we end the day and go into the evening, and still feeling warm, although with that breeze coming from the northwest. Lower humidities compared with a lot of the weather so far this July. So a fresh feel overnight, and in some spots, shelter from the breeze, and with clear skies, temperatures will dip into the single figures, but fairly widely we'll see temperatures remaining in the double figures, if not the teens, in main urban areas. Now we start the day on Wednesday, similar to Tuesday, with a lot of cloud across Scotland, Northern Ireland into Northern England. Some showery rain for the north of Scotland, otherwise it's a dry start for most of us. Now we'll see this cloud across northern areas sink further south and break through the afternoons. So yeah, it'll come and go, and it'll be a dry and bright day for many. It'll be another warm day and a little bit warmer towards the east.
Thank you, Britain, for making GB News Radio such a huge success. Whether you're in the car, on the go, or listening at home, thank you for choosing us as your radio station.
This is the latest AI travel news from GBnews.com. M40 northbound between junctions 4 and 5 in Buckinghamshire has a lane closure for maintenance. M56 in Cheshire eastbound junction 15 faces roadworks. Cumbria's M6 southbound between junctions 45 and 44 has restrictions. Leicester's M1 southbound has a lane closure between junctions 22 and 21A. Portsmouth's M27 eastbound between junctions 10 and 11 faces improvements. Solihull's M42 northbound between junctions 3A and 4 faces maintenance. Middlesbrough's A174 eastbound access from A172 is closed. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Welcome back. This is Good Afternoon Britain. Yes, it's the first full day that Andy Burnham is our Prime Minister, so let's head to number 10 Downing Street. Well, just outside number 10 Downing Street, because our political editor, deputy political editor, Tom Harwood, and co-host of this channel, is with our political editor outside there. So what is the very latest then?
Yes, Emily, we are outside number 10 Downing Street. They haven't let us in yet, but we do keep trying. But we have heard some reaction to what Andy Burnham has been announcing this morning, Chris.
Yeah, that's right. Because Parliament isn't sitting, we can't really hear what the Tories would do about this announcement to cut VAT off energy bills, saving us £45 off the average bill. That, though, can't be funded by cutting the ID card scheme because that wasn't funded in the first place, according to Darren Jones, the Minister in charge. Kemi Badenoch, who's the Conservative leader, who one of the colleagues will be speaking in the Commons where it be sitting, she's been giving her response to this to reporters today.
He's talked about taking VAT off energy bills. That's a good thing. It's something that we've proposed. But what about those green levies? Is he going to leave Ed Miliband's green levies in place? He shouldn't. We want to bring down the cost of energy for households as well as businesses. So it still falls short and it seems to not be funded. If Darren Jones says there's no money for it, Andy Burnham has got to go back to the drawing board. Says Kemi Badenoch on the second day of this government in power. It is farcical, Tom.
Yeah, and it does seem that there are some big political points that the Conservatives want to score over the Labour Party on this one. Calling the green levies on energy bills Ed Miliband's green levies, given that Ed Miliband's just been promoted to a great office of state and his replacement at the Energy and Net Zero Department is Miatta Fahnbulleh, someone who was originally a minister in that department at the start of 2024, but also who used to lead a think tank called the New Economics Foundation, a very left-wing think tank that's promoted things like wealth taxes in the past, and she has been really sort of as radical as Ed Miliband, if not more so, on some of these questions. So whilst people say that Ed Miliband's moved on from the Energy Department into a non-energy, non-economic policy role, well, actually his replacement in the department is very much of his opinion.
Now, you mentioned Miatta Fahnbulleh there being bumped up to energy. That's left jobs below the level of cabinet in government, hasn't it? For example, Ellie Reeves is now the Attorney General, leaving a job for the Solicitor General and others too. So we're expecting a junior reshuffle this afternoon.
Exactly. For every cabinet level position, there are 2 or 3 or 4, in some cases 5 Minister of State level positions, and then PPSs, Parliamentary Private Secretaries. So all of these different jobs have to be filled. It runs to about 110 people, I think, in total.
That's the payroll.
That's the payroll. And we've only had, 26, 28
we counted,
appointments so far. So a lot of appointments that still have to be made throughout the course of today.
And if you were Andy Burnham, what would you be seeking to do with what's the overall point of this junior reshuffle?
Well, ultimately, he can go away to assuaging the criticism that he's just appointed yes men to his cabinet, that he's just appointed people who are against Keir Starmer. What if he uses this opportunity in the lower rungs of ministerial office to appoint people who were more on Keir Starmer's side of the party? Would that then go some way to balancing that ticket?
We're watching social media and Twitter. Al Carnes, who was the last person to drop out of the leadership race that never happened, he's posted a tweet this lunchtime saying, "Run time, fun time, have a great day, everyone." He does do these rather amusing Twitter messages at the right time, often him having a pint of beer when it's all going wrong in Whitehall, kind of saying, "I'm here." Here's someone who gets a lot of respect. He's a very decorated former serviceman.
But has he weakened his position by going on with his run for as long as he did? This, of course, when he was thinking about standing to be leader of the Labour Party. Did he lose a bit of credence with Labour colleagues for going on with that far too long?
Yes, he allowed to hang over for too long. I think he was trying to create the space for conversation that never happened, and they may regret that in Downing Street.
One final thing to note on Ministers of State. Liz Truss, when she appointed her cabinet of people who supported her and sacked everyone who disagreed, she tried to balance that by promoting people who agreed with Rishi Sunak to junior ministerial levels, but ultimately everyone saw through it. It didn't help balance that ticket.
Politics is about factions and hers, Tom.
Yeah, well, back to you, Emily.
Sounds like there's quite a lot to balance in that cabinet and in those ministerial positions, so we'll wait to see. Already briefings, aren't there, going against the government from some scorned Starmerites. Well, this is Good Afternoon Britain on GB News. Lots more coming up on today's show. We are going to check on the weather forecast in Europe, though.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Heavy rain will affect parts of Bulgaria and thunderstorms will pop up in a few places in Italy on Wednesday, but otherwise it's dry and sunny for many parts of Europe at the moment. Breezy once again for the Canaries and for Madeira. Iberia, light winds, temperatures inland up to the high 30s, widespread sunny skies. Here are those showers popping up across Italy. There's area of rain moving through parts of Greece into Bulgaria, where it will be particularly heavy before drying up later this week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
GB News Breakfast. Every day from 6 a.m.
What do you think about where we're going to get our future athletes and our Olympians from when we're telling our children, oh, you can't go out and partake in sports today because it's a bit hot?
It's a bit hot. Yeah, I know, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, you're absolutely right. And, you know, not only are we cancelling sports days in some schools, and you said, you know, have to. No, they don't have to. This is the choice that the schools are making, and the heads are making. So my granddaughter's school, I've just done the school run this morning. They're not cancelling their sports day. You know, they're just being sensible. Why not move it to the morning? You know, I've just dropped her off now. It's 17 degrees. So they're perfectly capable of running at 9 o'clock in the morning instead of 2 o'clock in the afternoon. There's lots of ways that they could think outside of the box and do this. I mean, Labour is just about to cut 22% from the sports budget as well.
GB News, the People's Channel. Dubes & Co. Weekdays from 6 p.m.
Industrial action in the 70s, all of that is part of the culture of that great town, and it's something that reflects a lot about the rest of us.
Right, but the word culture does not...
It doesn't mean opera.
That's history.
Yeah.
That's the history of the town. How is this money spent? Whose money is it, right? I presume it's taxpayers' money, i.e. my money anyway, and if you pay tax, Susie, that will
I do pay a bit, Calvin.
Okay.
Yeah. Not as much as you, I'm sure.
No, but how much do we spend on the City of Culture for Hull? Do you know?
Well, look, so these shortlisted towns, they will receive £60,000 each to develop their full bids. Apparently, it's about restoring pride in local areas. They want to deliver a decade of national renewal. They want to shine a light on local visions and voices, they say, from across the UK.
GB News, the People's Channel. Britain's newsroom. Weekday mornings from 9:30.
So you go along to the car showroom and only like 10%, at most maybe 15 pay cash. The rest buy on some form of financing. And you often buy, it's a bit like a mortgage, and it's like buying a mortgage from the estate agent, which we all know is a terribly bad idea. Yeah. But this is what people did. And the deal is, the scandal is, the guys in the showroom were acting as dealers and brokers, and they were in many cases inflating the interest rate that you paid so that they could get bigger commission. And they didn't declare that. So you basically ended up paying more for your car than you would otherwise have done if you'd gone into the open market and found yourself, you know, a better deal.
How did that come to light?
Well, over many years. I mean, this has been going on since 2007.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Well, away from the drama in number 10, we're heading to the Farnborough Air Show. Yes, a Russian warship carrying out live-fire drills just off Britain's coast isn't exactly the backdrop a new Defence Secretary would have wanted on day one. The Royal Navy forced to shadow the vessel throughout the exercise. Questions are already being asked about Britain's military readiness. Well, Charlie Peters, our national reporter, can you bring us the latest and also the latest from Farnborough?
Special variant selected by contest. Well, good afternoon to you, Emily. Before we get into the Russian warship and what it's been up to in the English Channel, shall we just take a look at this A350 doing some wonderful turns around the air show here. Second biggest air show in the world, Farnborough, of increased importance this year because the cancellation of the Royal International Air Tattoo Riet in Fairford, because the US is currently using that airbase for its operations against Iran. But we've just been treated to a display from the US Air Force. It's F-35A. Before this Airbus passenger jet turned up, the F-35A, Britain's just ordered 12 of those, and we're now seeing the A350-1000 doing a banked turn back over towards the runway here. There's been demonstrations of commercial and military aircraft over the last 2 days, but this is the first air show where a Prime Minister won't attend since 1945. They talk about the Farnborough curse. Every time it's on, there seems to be a major transfer of power, and it's no different on this year's edition. And here comes that A350 passing over us again at just 800 feet, a very slow, gentle approach over the runway here for the plane spotters to get a close shot of rather majestic aircraft as it comes down. There you go, Emily. Should we get back to business now? Because there are some slightly trickier things to discuss, and that is what you were just mentioning now. Russian warship in the English Channel firing rounds during an exercise event in international waters, we should stress. We've got a statement now from Wes Streeting, the new Defence Secretary, said it was performative and irresponsible. He also added that Russia should be in no doubt about the resolve of this government and this Prime Minister. Well, earlier here at Farnborough, Kemi Baydock spoke to journalists, leader of the Conservative Party, and here's what she had to say about this Russian warship incident.
Airbus goal is to achieve 100%.
It's yet another thing for us to be concerned about. Today I'm at a defence conference, and the word on everyone else's lips is how are we going to pay for our defence? It needs to become the first priority of this government. Defence of the realm is a government's first duty, and I haven't heard Andy Burnham say anything about how he's going to find the shortfall in the defence investment plan. That's something that he needs to do. I have said I will work with him to cut welfare so that we can fund our defence. That's what I want to see.
Well, that's what we've heard from Kemi Baydock this afternoon. Concern about those Russian actions, likely timed with the arrival of a new Prime Minister. And of course, when the British military, in particular the Royal Navy, has recently carried out activities towards the Russian so-called shadow fleet, those oil tankers that have been traversing through the English Channel and international waters around the United Kingdom recently. So this A350 goes above me. I can also bring you some footage we captured a moment ago of that F-35A. Quite extraordinary footage that we saw of this fighter jet or combat aircraft flying overhead. Now, we have ordered, the British military has ordered 12 F-35As, which will be in service in good time, part of the Defence Investment Plan's funding. So that F-35A, as you're seeing on your screens now, was performing and demonstrating its range of capabilities. It can operate in ground attack, air-to-air fights, but also, critically, the F-35A has a nuclear attack role, and that adds an additional level of capability, able to rely and be used for NATO's nuclear capability in a moment of crisis. Gives Britain another nuclear capability beyond the continuous at-sea submarine deterrent. Well, there'll be plenty more announcements we expect throughout the Farnborough Air Show this week. Yesterday we had a big announcement from military technology firm Anduril. They're developing a new drone for so-called loyal wingmen to fly alongside the jet that we just showed you now. There is plenty of enterprise and innovation on display, but also many questions about what money Britain will spend to develop not just weapons of the next generation, but the ones they need right now.
Fantastic stuff. Thank you, Charlie. A majestic way to finish the show this afternoon. Thanks, Charlie, there at the Farnborough Air Show, of course. Well, that's it from me. That's it from Tom as well, who's been on number 10, who's been on Downing Street outside number 10, all show for us as well. But up next, it is Martin Daubney, who'll find out a little more about the shape of this government. Stick with us.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello again and welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. We've started the day with a lot of cloud and some places will keep that cloud for much of the day. Otherwise the cloud breaking up to give sunny spells and another warm or very warm day for many of us, especially towards the south and the southwest. High pressure still dominating the weather across the UK. It's slipped further west, allowing this cooler northwesterly airflow, and that's responsible for bringing in the cloud from the Atlantic. But the cloud does tend to break and lift with sunny spells developing. Having said that, there is some wildfire smoke in the air, so that will turn the sunshine hazy from time to time and drop temperatures by a degree compared with how they'd be without the wildfire smoke. I think highs of 28 Celsius across parts of East Wales into the southwest. Further north, it's going to feel cooler across Scotland. High teens, low 20s for many, and especially where we've got this cloud continuing, and some light showers for the north and northwest of Scotland. Mostly dry for Northern Ireland. A cloudy day by and large, but towards the south and east, some breaks in the cloud. England and Wales seeing decent sunny spells as we end the day and go into the evening, and still feeling warm, although with that breeze coming from the northwest. Lower humidities compared with a lot of the weather so far this July. So a fresh feel overnight, and in some spots, shelter from the breeze, and with clear skies, temperatures will dip into the single figures, but fairly widely we'll see temperatures remaining in the double figures, if not the teens, in main urban areas. Now we start the day on Wednesday, similar to Tuesday, with a lot of cloud across Scotland, Northern Ireland into Northern England. Some showery rain for the north of Scotland, otherwise it's a dry start for most of us. Now we'll see this cloud across northern areas sink further south and break through the afternoon. So yeah, it'll come and go, and it'll be a dry and bright day for many. It'll be another warm day and a little bit warmer towards the east.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
What would you do with £60,000 cash? What would you do with a real gold bar? Well, both have to be won in our Golden Summer celebration. First, there's £60,000 in tax-free cash to bolster your bank account this year. Plus, we'll also give you a fine gold bar worth over £5,000. For a chance to win, text GOLD to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entry start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB22 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 21st of August. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions. But every Friday night at 9 p.m, you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Some people enjoy lazy Sunday mornings, but not me.
What's the truth of the matter?
So that's a very live question.
Would you support him if he waters down these plans?
Before the spin sets in, I'll be getting to the truth.
This is personal.
No soft questions, no easy answers.
It's one thing if the state has rules in this country. It's another thing whether the police and others actually police them.
Setting the agenda and holding those in power to account.
You can't really blame her if the system is set up this way.
You will not want to miss it, trust me. The Camilla Tominey Show, Sundays from 9:30, only on GB News.
Welcome to Free Speech Nation with me, Josh Harwood. This is the show where each week we see what's happening in the world of culture, current affairs and politics.
First we'll say, welcome to the UK. Oh, thank you.